this Monday afternoon. How are you, Sammy? We're just getting situated in here.
So you were in Vegas over the weekend. I was in Scottsdale, so we
got some catching up to do.
Yeah, we're back in San Diego, home base.
You can kind of hear it in my voice. I realized this maybe yesterday. I'm like, you know what? It all kind of adds up. Like you call 3 games in 3 days, and just the entirety of the season for San Diego State, and we'll react to that. Obviously, over the next 4 hours. Kevin Acee is our Padres insider. He will join us coming up at 3:30. He is in Miami, where Team USA is moving on. Team Dominican obviously is heading back to the respective spring training sites, including Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis Jr. So we'll have to discuss there as well. Let's start with the Aztecs, because Selection Sunday obviously was less than 24 hours ago. And the field is set, as everyone that's listening knows, or most everyone knows. San Diego State on the outside looking in. Not surprising. Yeah. None of it is surprising. San Diego State, I thought their most realistic path to get to the NCAA tournament, we all felt the same way heading into this past weekend, was go win the Mountain West tournament. And, they did some things that were really encouraging the first couple of days, right? I mean, you could just see it, their motivation, their level of play. And, I'm not going to come up with a reason why they didn't beat Utah State. It's neither here nor there necessarily right now. Sometimes in sports, just like life, like it's not going to always go the way you want it to go. Like it's as simple as that. There's things that people do professionally that you think you're going to get a job, you don't. There's things you do personally where you think it's going to go one way, relationship-wise, it goes another. And then there's sports, which is like the greatest unknown, even when you think you know everything. We all think we know everything. And then you get into like a Super Bowl where you know everything and you don't know anything, and so on and so forth. So it just wasn't meant to be, I would say, for the entire year. It's like, it's not that, I always hate the like the broad generalization of like they quit, what a disaster. Right. Like it doesn't have to always be that. They went 22-11 and missed the field. That's what happened. They were the third team out. That's just a factual statement. Did they reach their expectations? Of course not. They would tell you that. They would tell you to a man they did not reach their expectations. But like I said, that happens. That is a part of sports. And now it's
right, the other team's trying to win too.
Exactly. So, yeah, I mean, it was an interesting weekend, Sammy. You watched it play out. I mean, for a moment, it felt like they were going to get it done. They win on Friday night against New Mexico. It looks like they're going to get it done. But in the end, once they didn't beat Utah State, I think by and large, the writing was kind of on the wall.
It was overall, the season will obviously not be looked at overall as a success. To your point, they would tell you that. They would tell you they didn't reach expectations. I give them a lot of credit for how they played over the weekend. I thought they fought, and Friday night was such a close game.
Great game.
Good performance on Thursday. And honestly, throughout Saturday, I mean, having a lead at half, getting pretty excited there. I'm not blaming refs. Some people have done that. The 5-point play was killer. It was killer. It was a terrible call. I can't believe that they looked at and reviewed it and it still came to that adjudication, whatever you'd say. That was pretty surprising, but yeah, they didn't have the scoring down the stretch. Utah State's a really good basketball team, playing in an 8-9 game here actually at Viejas, which stings a little bit, but yeah. So overall the season disappointing, but yeah, they fought the last week and it just feels like with how they played early, they were constantly fighting. It's like they were just fighting to get out of, to keep kind of get their head above water because of the Troy loss. They didn't perform against Michigan, Baylor, Arizona. We've talked about all those games ad nauseum. And then over the last couple of months, they've overall played pretty good basketball. But when you falter early, it doesn't leave you a lot of lenience. And unfortunately, that Grand Canyon game, that Troy game probably comes back to bite them in the end. But I thought overall this weekend, they did play well. They played hard, and just, I guess, hats off to Utah State because they were the better team on the neutral floor.
It's funny you say that. I kind of feel the same way. It's like, what more can you ask? Like, does it always have to be some everything was wrong, or can you just say, you know what, for whatever reason, like sometimes you gotta give credit to your opponent too. To your point about Troy, if they win a double overtime loss, they're probably in the tournament. The 1-point loss to Grand Canyon, talk about officiating on the road. If they win that game, they're probably in the tournament. But again, this is just how sports work. It's like good baseball teams win 1-run games, and teams that aren't as good or don't make the postseason lose 1-run games. Or the Chiefs, when they win a Super Bowl, are 15-0 in games decided by 8 points or less. I'm making it up. And then the year they don't make the playoffs, they're 2-8 in games decided by 8 points or less. This is the beauty of what we all get to do kind of for a living or watch as a fan. It's like, you think how many times in the last year did we think we knew something that we didn't really know from a sports perspective, right? I mean, some of it you get it right. You say, hey, the Dodgers are the best team in baseball. They're going to win the World Series. Why am I even watching? They win the World Series. It wasn't easy this past year. You still had to watch, I think, if you're a fan of baseball. But so some of it, okay, you get right. And other things you think, the Chiefs, they'll be back. And then they're not.
Right. Who had Seahawks Patriots on their bingo card exactly for a Super Bowl matchup?
That's exactly right. And that's professional football. And so it's the agony and the ecstasy, as I always say, this time of year, right? This is March. And let's hear, this was post-game. This is where it gets to me, where it's like you could say that the season was a disappointment or it didn't turn out the way you thought it would, but it doesn't take away from like the individuals on the team. Like Reese Dixon Waters and Miles Byrd are remembered for me as great Aztecs. I mean, they 100%. Just are. And there have been some great players. And it's not just for their performance on the floor. It's also for who they are and what they say with the media and how they think of San Diego State. They're not perfect players. No one is. They're not perfect players because no one is. Listen to this with the media after the Saturday loss with Reese Dixon Waters and Miles Byrd and the question post-game after the loss to Utah State.
Just both you guys, Miles and Reese, how proud of you are you of this group?
I'm very proud of this group. We've had ups and downs, but I think we've grown throughout the season. I'm proud for all the younger guys that came in and, helped in times when they needed to, and, they grew as well. So I'm very proud of everybody.
Yeah, no, I mean, coming in preseason #1 unanimously, I think first time in Mountain West history, something like that. And, we had a lot of rough patches throughout the year. So, I mean, I love everybody in that locker room. I'm proud of how we blocked out outside noise throughout the year. Just continue to put our heads down, continue to work. I feel like the past few days have been our best, like playing basketball together. It sucks that it was 30 games into the year, but if we're given the opportunity again, I think we still got a lot left in us.
So again, that was Miles Byrd that you just heard, and prior to that, Reese Dixon Waters. And, that is this tournament. But I mean, they didn't make the tournament. That was the Mountain West tournament, and they didn't know if they'd be in or out of the field at that time. Although, again, I think most people got it right, which was San Diego State had not done enough to get in. That's a conversation we can have as well. And then you get into this tournament, and for example, there's games coming up this weekend in VA House. These ridiculous teams coming here: Kansas, Arizona, St. John's, right? And guess what? Come the end of Friday, your field of 68's down to 32. Mm-hmm. And you got 36 more teams kind of feeling like San Diego State.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot more press conferences like that this weekend.
For every jubilation on one side of a team moving on, there's going to be another team that goes down, recapping their season. So it's just, I love this tournament. I love college basketball. I love this time of year. As someone that has done as much work as I have with San Diego State, you wish they were still playing. They have made a living of still playing in March. They've been in the tournament a ridiculous number of times, 7 of 9 years, essentially, under Brian Dutcher. The success over the last 25 years is remarkable considering where they were previously. But it doesn't always work out that way. You're not guaranteed a spot in the field. And now maybe it'll be even more special the next time they're in after missing out this time.
Right. I think all you could ask of the Aztecs, kind of what I said a few minutes ago about they were kind of playing an uphill battle for a large portion of the year. You had a lot of injuries. LZ Harrington dealt with injuries. Magoon Guath. Even in the Players Era tournament, Magoon Guath had just come back in that Troy game. So even though he was out there, wasn't fully healthy. You had so many new players in Tay Simmons and LZ Harrington, Odin, that were kind of trying to mesh on the fly. And it's the wonders of scheduling a tough schedule and the downfall. I mean, a year ago, that's the reason they got in. The win over Houston and Creighton this year, unfortunately, didn't work out in their favor. But again, when you look at the last week, and they did all you could ask him to do. I mean, you whoop up on UNLV in a quote meaningless game, or not whoop up on them, but you have win a thriller against them. BJ Davis has 30 points,
right?
And then you win on Thursday, you win a thriller on Friday, and I mean, we were talking about last week. It's pretty embarrassing, and this is why it's awesome that they're going to the Pac-12. That the conference is having a team that's going to be playing in the championship game, playing at 9:00 on Friday night, and then playing at 3:00 the next day. I mean, I made this reference earlier with Fletch. You don't see the Super Bowl played anymore in New York outside because the weather should not be a factor in the two best teams in the NFL going at it for the ultimate prize. It's a shame that you had such a rest advantage for Utah State. I think that kind of played into it a little bit. You could see them fade a little bit in the second half, but again, You went up against Utah State, a tournament team. You split with them earlier on in the year. You gave yourself a shot to win and played well for most of that game. So, I'm not going to come on here and kill them for not making the tournament.
Yeah, it's funny. I felt the same way when the game ended. It's like you could discuss, the lack of rest. You could discuss a 5-point possession and officiating. Any number of things. You go back and look at one play or one moment from that game, one turnover, one shot in or out. At the end of the day, it's like I look back on it and say, you know what? They gave it their all. It didn't work out. They put themselves in a position come Saturday where for about a 12-hour window, it felt like they were going to do it. When they beat New Mexico in the manner in which they did, with BJ Davis hitting a layup with 2 seconds left, them dodging a ridiculous bullet after that with 0.6 seconds left in the quad, fielding a ball that could have just rolled out of bounds and they would have won the game. But like it kind of felt like maybe they had everything they needed, but Utah State had other ideas. Utah State's good. That's fine. And the thing with the Mountain West, like I'm not going to sit here and say that the committee got it wrong and how could you have just one Mountain West team in? There's so many dynamics at play. When bids are stolen, that's taking away other opportunities. Yeah. By the way, I would have felt way worse today if San Diego State on Selection Sunday was listed as the first team out. There's nothing worse than being the first team out because now you're one result away, literally one bid not being stolen, you're in the field. When you're third out, you're not one result away from being in. But
how'd you feel about Auburn being above them?
I don't even care because neither are in. If they were the last in and San Diego State was the first out, I'm sure I'd spend 30 minutes on it. But like the Mountain West is a good league. It is a good league. There's other good leagues. And the fact that it got only one, I could easily argue for more than that. But in the same regard, it's like these teams obviously had opportunities. San Diego State would be included in that. And to your point, they're heading to the Pac-12. And San Diego State's going nowhere, if that makes sense. Like, just trust me. Like, San Diego State will put themselves in a position. They have the resources. They have the coaching, obviously. They have the roster, and they have the ability to put themselves in a position. But, John, they don't have the money that Kansas and Kentucky have. They never did. But John, now there's NIL and transfer portal. Well, guess what? Kansas was getting players 25 years ago that San Diego State wasn't even able to recruit in any capacity. Nothing in that regard has truly changed. So I'm not saying that there's not a widening gap. It's hard. You used to develop players for 3 or 4 years. They've been able to do that to some extent, but you can lose a player along the way. Kansas can lose players along the way now. That never would have happened.
Right. I mean,
other than to the NBA.
Look at Kentucky every year.
Their whole
it felt like
turns over.
They were losing every year in the first round because although they would have 3 lottery picks in the NBA draft, it's just you didn't have continuity. So, right, for everyone, I've seen a lot of, they could lose this guy or the NIL money.
Yeah,
I mean, you made the point last week. For every player that San Diego State is going to lose, they're going to regain from other teams who we look at around the country are big time players. I mean, you have a great coach in Brian Dutcher, a winning legacy at San Diego State. Hell, you're getting to come to San Diego, which sells itself already a great home arena. So yeah, the Aztecs are going to be just fine. It's easy to get when they're winning, way too high on them. It's easy to get when they're losing, way too low on them. I get that that's sports and we're all fans, so it's easy to do that. But yeah, I mean, there should be no concerns about this team for next season not being relevant in the big March Madness picture.
Kentucky has missed tournaments twice in the last 10 years. It happens. It's a part of, again, life and sports. All right, we're going to get to the Padres on the other side because we have updates on Joe Musgrove that are not encouraging. We'll hear from Padres manager Craig Stammen. Later on, we'll hear from Dave Velasquez, longtime Aztec assistant who joined me postgame after that loss to Utah State on Saturday. Kevin Acee will join us live at 3:30. We're just getting started. This is San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, San Diego Sports 760, John Schaefer, Sammy Long, Brent Sperry. We do have a pair of tickets to see Neo today, folks. August 18th, North Island Credit Union Amphitheater. Tickets at Ticketmaster.com. So we have Neo tickets to give away. Kevin, now you gave those away earlier today, right?
We did, and Ben started singing Nelly.
But this is Neo.
This is Neo. So Ben started promoting it like it was Nelly. I said, buddy, it's Neo. They're two different people.
Right. I mean, they have 3 of the same 5 letters.
Yes.
In their name, but yeah, it doesn't mean.
So that was a 5-minute discussion on the show today. Who was better, Nelly or Neo?
I'm surprised he didn't think it was the guy from The Matrix.
Yes.
Who's that?
I forgot. You know,
I don't even know. Is that his name?
It's Keanu Reeves' character is called Neo. It's spelled different.
By the way, that movie's not exactly like, it's old, right?
It's really old.
Yeah, it's old.
Didn't come out like
90s.
It says the 20-year-old. It's really old. It's old. It's not really old, but yeah, it's old.
All right, Kevin AC will join us coming up at 3:30. Let's react to what Craig Stammen said today. This is with the media in Peoria on, I guess I'll preface it just by saying this. We know that Joe Musgrove hasn't pitched now in a while. He made 1 Cactus League appearance. It was against Great Britain. This is why you don't play nations in the Cactus League, but he appeared against Great Britain. He hasn't pitched since. He's coming off Tommy John, and now we get the latest on Joe Musgrove.
So on Joe, does he start on the IL? What's the plan on that?
Yeah, he's most likely going to start on the IL this year. I mean, it's, we're getting to the point where he's taking enough time off that it'd be hard to ramp him up, to get him to be a viable starter that can throw 5 innings, 90 pitches. So, like I said, this was part of the plan.
Right.
And we knew he was going to have to take some time off. We knew we were going to have to get him ready for the entire season and not just opening day.
So what's it do to your rotation?
Well, we've got a lot of depth. We've got a lot of competition here in spring training. It's been fun to watch, and guys are competing for spots. We'll miss Joe at the beginning, but we're going to have Joe at some point during the season.
So when do you pick spots?
When do what?
When do you pick spots in your rotation?
Well, we'll probably pick spots probably the day before opening day.
You wait that long? Okay.
Oh, yeah. We'll wait all the way until we have to make a decision. I think it's probably smart to wait as long as you can to make decisions because you never know what could happen in between that time period. So we're going to be smart. We're going to be patient, and we're going to try to make the best decision we can make with all the information.
So, I mean, make no mistake here. This is significant. Now, we've all been saying the same thing all offseason, Sammy, which is nobody's like, oh, Joe's back. Here's your 20 wins and 2.49 ERA. I mean, that's absurd. So we've all been cautious, and we've all known that Tommy John is a significant injury to overcome, and there are hurdles to clear in returning. So I'm not saying he's going to have no value and the season is lost, but it's hard to have a ton of expectations for Joe Musgrove coming off Tommy John and starting the year on the IL.
Well, it makes the not spending for one elite other starter in your starting rotation look worse because and I know they tried with Merrill Kelly and he came out and declined it because of tax purposes and all that. But if you had gone and got a Framber Valdez, if you would have gone and got someone who was a bona fide star, or at least someone that you pointed to every 5 days, we're like, you know what, we feel comfortable throwing X, Y, and Z out there. He's a big part of our rotation. It just puts so much pressure on all AJ Preller's moves. And Griffin Canning isn't healthy right now. Walker Buehler and Herman Marquez. I mean, it was already with those 3 healthy, Musgrove, King, and Pivetta, you were looking at who was going to be Vasquez and then who was going to round out the 5th spot. Now you need Buehler. Now you need Marquez. You need one of these guys or 2 of these guys to give you a couple weeks here where they're playing good baseball because we've talked about it a lot. It's just the Padres don't have the luxury, take the Dodgers out of it, but with the Diamondbacks and the Giants getting better, they don't have the luxury to just be kind of, rest on their laurels for parts of the season and going 500 because these teams got better around them, and it just puts a lot of stress on Pivetta and King, and it just makes me wonder, you don't want to fall into a situation where you're using the bullpen at such a high usage rate early on in the year, and that continues, that pays dividends down the road, which negatively. And it's already concerning that Musgrove's already injured. Yeah,
it is concerning. It's not that it can't be overcome. I mean, you might be able to say on one hand, well, they didn't have Joe Musgrove last year. True. They didn't. He didn't pitch. He didn't throw 1 pitch a year ago. But also last year, the way their rotation was built heading into the year provided them more veteran depth. I mean, their upside was significant. Now, they didn't get everything out of it, when you think about Dylan Cease, Michael King, certainly you Darvish, but just think about that. I mean, where they were heading into last year with the rotation, they were prepared not to have Joe Musgrove. He had just suffered the
But
injury.
he was a luxury if they got him back.
They knew he wasn't pitching unless it was like in October by some miracle. But I think to some extent they probably went into this year or this offseason saying, hey, we're gonna get him back. You know, he's gonna pay dividends for us at some point. And I think he will, but I don't know when. And I'd be very surprised if it was sooner rather than later. They're not going to rush it. So if he needs to get ramped back up, if he needs extra starts, if he needs extra time, you're going to afford him that because you have no other option. You cannot force a player coming off Tommy John. So depth becomes the critical piece now for the Padres.
And Pivetta, you're talking about arm fatigue a couple weeks ago. That story kind of got buried.
You're right.
Hopefully it's better now, but you're putting even more pressure on Pivetta to be the number one starter just like he was last year. It's just it's frustrating that there hasn't been a single game yet so far this season, and we're already having these massive starting pitching concerns about depth.
All right, on the other side, I want to get into what happened last night in the WBC, and then I want to spin it towards what it means for the Padres moving forward as well. All right, this classic game last night between the U.S. and the Dominican. Can we read more into it than what played out yesterday? One game, does it mean more than it really was? We'll discuss on the other side. Plus, if you missed my conversation post-game Saturday with Aztec assistant Dave Velasquez, you'll hear that coming up at 3 p.m. Kevin Acee will join us at 3:30 live with more on Joe Musgrove. Stay with us here on San Diego Sports 760.
This report is sponsored by Anderson Plumbing, Heating, and Air. In NFL news, the Chiefs sent a 6th-round pick to the Jets for quarterback Justin Fields. Cornerback Darius Slay announced his retirement from the NFL after 13 seasons. He was a 6-time Pro Bowler and a 1-time All-Pro in 2017. And he had 28 career interceptions. And just coming in, the 49ers also reached a 1-year deal with wide receiver Christian Kirk. Choosing the right home service company isn't just about fixing what's broken. It's about trusting who's in your home. That's why homeowners count on Anderson for friendly professional service that keeps everything running right. Visit AndersonPHA.com.
All right, San Diego Sports 760. Back with you, John Schaefer and Sammy Long. So last night, thrilling game between the U.S. and the Dominican in the WBC. So the U.S. moves on. But here's the thing. And I don't think this is fair to like Manny and Toddy. But you're on the wrong side of a critical game, right? With a lot to play for. And you don't have your best moment specifically in this game. Now, I understand baseball's not like a one-game thing normally. It's not like we say, in a one-game wild card, this player went 1 for 4, didn't show up. I mean, what are we even talking about? It's one baseball game, and you're facing like elite pitching, obviously, last night. Elite pitching, but it does like further drive home the narrative, not with Tatis. Tatis has had his playoff moments. He didn't against the Cubs, and he did in this series until he ran into the U.S. yesterday. But there has been a narrative on Manny Machado throughout the course of his career, whether it was Baltimore, LA, or now San Diego, that this is not a postseason performer. I mean, there's just like that's becoming more and more entrenched by the year, not based on this game. For me, fully, although he had a big moment in this game and didn't come through. But again, it's like if you're Manny, you'd love to come through somewhere along the way. Now, this to me is still not the NLCS or the World Series for me. But again, I just feel like the narratives get further solidified with each passing big moment for Manny Machado, and he's not getting any younger. So it's just something to consider moving forward. At some point, Manny's going to have to hit his way through a postseason or like a clutch game. And like, I haven't really seen that really with the Padres or in his time in San Diego.
Right. I mean, that's been the knock on him. 209 career batting average in the postseason.
So it is 209?
209. I mean, it is. It's never been great. And that's why, I mean, there was a frustration for when he was in LA for half the season, Baltimore, like you said, in San Diego. And where there's been times the 1 year they beat the Dodgers 2022, he had a good series there. Didn't come through against the Phillies. He had the home run in game 1 against the Dodgers a couple of years ago, but don't give me, he flew out to the track twice in game 5. That doesn't count.
Right, exactly.
go ask Dodger fans how they feel about Mookie Betts getting robbed by Profar. If that was a good game by Mookie Betts. But yeah, it was. And I was thinking about that when I was watching it. It was Tatis obviously gets thrown out at third. But Tatis, there's some grace because he has the grand slam off Walker Buehler of all people. Like he's had some really big moments in some of these games. And Manny, it was kind of on him. It was you thought, I mean, Manny Machado's up. I believe they had 2 outs, 2 on. I believe that was the scenario. I mean, there was certainly a big moment for Manny Machado there and didn't come through. Yeah, it was. And then you hear like Juan Soto run his mouth after about how they were really the better team.
Yes.
Like, I mean, it was just kind of like,
you can't say that.
Like, obviously. I mean, when you score 1 run, sorry, like if you would have told any Dominican Republic fan, John Smoltz said this on the broadcast last night, that you would have held the U.S. team to 2 runs, you would have thought you were going on to the final. Yep. And yeah, it just, Tatis and Machado kind of get singled out. Obviously, no one else really came through, Caminero, Soto, but they did kind of not come through in 2 of the biggest moments of the game.
Yeah. And that, again, like back to what we said earlier, that's kind of sports. I mean, it's one game against elite pitching with a lot on the line for this tournament, obviously. And it also like further solidifies the whole like good pitching beats good hitting. Sometimes like you can have the greatest lineup in the world, but if you're facing the best pitchers in the sport, they can be negated by and large. Now, the other side of that is in the postseason, typically you need power to move on, but in the postseason, you don't face just one pitcher. So it's like you could be quieted in one game Like LA, for example, last year, they win the World Series. They lost a number of games, obviously, in the postseason on their way to win the World
Destroyed by
Series.
the Phillies, like 8-1.
Yeah, and again, they lost 3 games against the Blue Jays, but at the end of the day, obviously, their lineup did pay dividends, but they weren't facing Paul Skeens every day. If they were, who knows what level of success they would have. So everyone always is like that. We always get enamored with offenses. And at the end of the day, I'd probably prefer the elite pitching over the elite hitting. In a 1-game winner-take-all situation, I'm taking Mason Miller and Paul Skeens over Juan Soto and Fernando Tatis Jr., right?
Right. And I was sitting there thinking last night, had Tatis come up in the 9th, had he's
in the on-deck circle.
He's in the on-deck circle. Would have been called a ball, which it looked like it was. But I was like, who has more pressure in this scenario? And it's got to be Tatis.
100%.
Because Miller, at the end of the day, even if he blew that, no one's going, Mason Miller is not the best closer in baseball because his last 50 batters, he struck out 39 of them or something. It's crazy. His stats are unbelievable. He's almost unhittable. And that would have been fun to see. Obviously, I was pulling for Team USA, so I was happy that they struck him out. But it was, baseball's odd with that because basketball is the one sport where, because you're playing offense and defense, people judge you by your playoff performances. And probably more than any other one. In Game 7, you're playing both ways. And James Harden's been crushed his entire career for not coming through in big moments. We judge NFL quarterbacks based on win-losses because great NFL quarterbacks, even if they don't have the best team around them, still find ways to win the biggest moments. But we don't judge a receiver that way. We don't judge a corner that way. And hitters do kind of get a benefit of the doubt. We'll kill a pitcher for his postseason record or having a bad moment in a postseason, but it does feel like we do give big time hitters a pass a lot of the time. And like, should that be the case? Like, I get it to your point. If you judge off one game, the best hitter in baseball might be averaging just over 300. So you're 3 out of 10 times.
Right, exactly.
So if you go 1 for 4, it's hard to crush them. But over Manny Machado's complete career, he hasn't worked in the postseason, and it's just a fact. Yeah, I mean, listen, it's obviously going to be harder theoretically to hit in the postseason than it is in the regular season for all the reasons we've referenced. I mean, Ohtani, it's a smaller sample size. It's not like this guy's hit 350 in his postseason career. He's hit 248. Now he's hit for power. He's got a 940 career OPS in 33 games. I say it's a small sample size. It's not, because he's now played 33 games. That's a ton of games. Manny Machado's career OPS, it's not to compare it to Ohtani. That's not even the point. And that's not even reasonable. Shohei Ohtani is going to go down. It's obviously this ridiculous all-time 1-of-1 freak. But Manny Machado's got a 682 lifetime OPS in the postseason. He's Bryce Johnson in the postseason. So it's one thing to have your numbers take a step back. I mean, you could argue that, again, Ohtani's numbers, those aren't his regular season numbers. He's not a 240 hitter in the regular season, but it's the postseason. And people, I think, forget because of that Brewer game where he hit 3 home runs, had 10 strikeouts. Right, before that, the Philly series, people in Los Angeles were pissed because Ohtani only had
18. He's 1 for 18. That's right.
He had a double. That was it. So that was a real talking point of his best player on the team, but wasn't coming through. Mookie Betts for years. Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman, they won that series against Arizona. They got combined for 1 hit. I mean, it does happen to the best players, but it can't be every year. It can't be every year. It's completely permissible one year. If Shohei Ohtani this upcoming postseason goes 1 for 12 in a best-of-5 series loss, it's explainable away because of 2024 and 2025. If Machado goes 1 for 12 and they lose in 3 games to the Cubs, you cannot explain that away. It's almost inexcusable. And at that point, again, it just further cements what his legacy is going to be. He's not going to be remembered like Clayton Kershaw in the postseason, because it's just different. Kershaw was truly the best pitcher of his generation. And it's different between pitching and hitting as well. Because more of the game is on your shoulders as a pitcher.
It's different. And Kershaw was just so bad so often in the postseason. He's not under the same microscope, but I think for those that have followed his career, for those that are in San Diego, if you want to pay attention, Manny Machado's postseason numbers are problematic. And again, I don't care about what happened with Team Dominican yesterday. I just don't want to see it in San Diego. I don't want to see the Padres put a season together. They go 92-70, and then they're out. And once again, Manny Machado is a no-show.
Well, you go to last year. I mean, it's easy to come on and talk about the lack of a 4th or 5th starter or the lack of production coming from 7, 8, 9. And that was a real talking point 2 years ago when the Padres lost to the Dodgers. It was 7-8-9-1. Luis Ariz did not have a good series.
Mm-hmm.
But people do forget. I mean, the Cubs series, again, small sample size, 3 games, 2 for 22 between Tatis and Machado is unacceptable. I mean, there is something that comes with having your name on the marquee. When your name is on the side of the building and you sell the tickets, there are different expectations. So we can put this on the 5th starter. We can put it on the back end of the lineup or some of the bullpen pieces. But, I mean, what do we talk about? You had to get to Miller and Suarez early in that game 3 against the Cubs. It might have been a different story had these guys hit more, but small sample size. But yeah, at some point you have to be held accountable for your playoff failures.
And by the way, in what world are we doing automatic balls and strikes for random Cactus League games and then playing this championship tournament that's played every 3rd year with the largest, with everything on the line, not best of 5 series. And no, we're not going to use it for that. No, it's not part of it. Maybe next time. What? In what world where you're allowing it in the major leagues and you've been using it in spring training, you're using it in the Florida damn state league in A-ball, and you're not going to, they play the teams every 3 years in a tournament, a best of 1. And now we're not going to use ABS. That to me that's bad, right? How could you not have ABS in this event?
It's bad. Now you hear a lot today about, it was, it was a BS call, but that doesn't mean that just because Tatis came up, they were going to win the game. I've heard a lot about that of, the U.S. shouldn't be moving on, which is pretty crazy. But yes, to your point, especially in single elimination games. And that doesn't happen in baseball. That doesn't happen in the MLB playoffs, but it is happening in the WBC. And when you're trying to market the WBC as something, it doesn't have the allure of the World Cup or the Olympics. Like we talked about that. You're trying to cast a wider net that's not just diehard baseball fans to get people kind of invested in the WBC. It is, I mean, right. The fact that you don't have that, you don't have a challenge. It seems like the WBC would have been a great place to try it on a bigger stage than a Cactus League game before it came to Major League Baseball. I feel like the WBC would have been a nice step for that, but obviously they don't have it.
Yeah, next time in 3 years, maybe
next time,
ABS
3 years
in the WBC. All right, U.S. is moving on. Again, Kevin Acee will join us live at 3:30. If you missed my conversation with Aztec assistant Dave Velasquez after the Aztecs championship game loss to Utah State on Saturday, you'll hear that coming up at 3 p.m. On the other side, expansion in the NBA and its impact on the league. Coming up next on San Diego Sports 760. All right, this is one of those things that's like everyone knows, but it's news, which is the NBA is going to expand and add teams in Seattle and Las Vegas. It's like one of those things that's like it's an open secret where, I mean, this has been discussed for a decade for Seattle specifically and probably for a half decade with Las Vegas. Now, my preference, we were joking off air. I was hoping not just one of the teams would come here, but both. I want a team in North County, and I want a team in the Midway District, and then I want the rival fan bases to just hate each other. I want like the people in North County to hate the Midway team, and the people in like South County to hate the North County.
That'd be fantastic. You're on the cut line, like maybe Mira Mesa. Man, you get a split base.
I hate the Seagulls, but I love the Sun. You know, but I don't think they'd be the Sun with already the Suns in the West. But I mean, listen, you can't even. San Diego was never a possibility. I mean, there's no world. I mean, there's nothing. There's no arena. So San Diego's never been a realistic possibility for NBA expansion, not to mention the fact that the NBA has been in San Diego multiple times, although it's been forever. I understand it. And the thing is, it's hard to say that what they're going to select doesn't make sense. Seattle was a very good NBA market that left in the heat of the night for whatever reason. They maintain their name. They can be renamed the Seattle Supersonics. And then Las Vegas is this like booming sports market. It's become one of the sports capitals of the country, if not the world. So like, it's hard to be critical of it. I assume it's just a formality. You're going to see Seattle and Las Vegas at some point announced in 2026 and then operate probably in 2 years or start in 2 years. And for the league, it's a lot of money. And honestly, I think for most people, it makes a lot of sense.
Right. I mean, you hit it on the head. Seattle, Seattle should have a basketball team. I mean, they were obviously a massive player back in the day. And right as the team was kind of getting good, you get Kevin Durant, all of a sudden they ripped the team out and get it to Oklahoma City. In Vegas, it was always thought of as just a fight town. And people thought because it was so touristy, they wouldn't have such a base. And I mean, all these teams, everyone's going to thank the Vegas Golden Knights because the Vegas Golden Knights went and became this big show in Las Vegas that even non-hockey fans were like, they got a DJ and a light show going everywhere. Vegas knows how to put on a show, and you got the Raiders, the A's come in, now a basketball team. It'll be cool to see Vegas getting all that. The happiest man though in the entire NBA is Anthony Edwards because the Timberwolves and the Grizzlies look like they're heading to the Eastern Conference. So Anthony Edwards, instead of having to run into Shea every year and Wemby every year, and then maybe Luka or Kevin Durant, all these teams, Jokic gets to go to the Eastern Conference.
But you only move one because didn't we do this exercise, me and you, the other time, and we got it wrong? Because right now it's 15 and 15, right? 15 teams in the East and 15 in the West.
Yeah.
If you move 2, you'd have 17.
No, but they're gonna make Vegas and Seattle in the West. They're gonna add them both to the West, and they're gonna move Memphis and Minnesota. It looks like to the Eastern Conference.
No, the math doesn't work. Just hear me out. There's 15 in the West right now, right? Move 1 to the East. Yeah, you have 14. Add 2, you have 16.
Yeah, but Memphis and Minnesota are going to the East.
But if only Memphis goes, you go from 15 to 16.
Oh, okay.
You see what I'm saying? We did this, but I did this recently, and the math. Okay, you have 15 on both sides. But just hear me out. 15 on both sides. If you added 2 to the West and moved 2
to the East, you'd have 16.
No.
Wait, hold on.
No,
what are we missing here?
No, you wouldn't.
Wait, so if you took 2 teams out and move in the Eastern Conference, you'd have 17 teams to 13.
And then you'd add 2, you'd be 17 and 15. That's why only one team's moving.
Right?
I know we did that. Only one team is moving because you have to add a team.
That took me way too long to get.
Because you're adding a team to both conferences. So by adding 2, you're only adding 1 if you move 1.
I'm curious if because Memphis,
Memphis is the closest.
But Memphis, the Eastern Conference has been crushed. Now this year it's pretty good. You got a lot of talented teams, right? Because Memphis blew it up, and it looks like Jaren Jackson's gone, Desmond Bane's gone, John Morant is probably going to be next. You're going to move a bad team, a bottom feeder to the Eastern Conference, whereas Minnesota is a good team that's lost in the Western Conference Finals in each of the last 2 seasons. Would make more sense to balance out the powers a little bit. Anthony Edwards in the Eastern Conference could dominate for years on end. So that would probably make more sense from the NBA perspective to even out the West and East.
I always hated moving conferences, but then again, it like you forget about it. Like the Brewers have moved, the Astros have moved,
the Seahawks have moved.
The Seahawks have moved.
Seahawks were in the AFC West.
That's crazy. Yeah. I mean, I remember the NFC East when the Cardinals were in it.
Really?
The NFC East forever had the Cardinals in it with the Cowboys and the Eagles and the Giants and the Redskins. Like, so things do change. Yeah, that's interesting. But in general, like adding Las Vegas and Seattle, yeah, honestly, it's amazing to me it's taken this long for the NBA to get back to Las Vegas. Well, it's never been to Las Vegas, but for it to get back to Seattle and go to Las Vegas, I thought it would have been done 5 years ago.
I'm very curious we talked about your tanking's been obviously a big part of the NBA and recently. You're adding two teams who are most expansion teams outside of San Diego FC, and the Vegas Golden Knights actually suck for the first couple of years. So I wonder how that affects tanking. And you're talking about new tanking rules, implementing all that. How do you get these teams off the ground where you don't have Vegas and Seattle tank for 3 years to try to just get a couple superstars?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. When I was younger, I always loved the idea of expansion is kind of cool.
It's fun.
It's like you got these new franchises, you got these new teams. Now, the other side of it is like, are you watering down your product? Are there enough great NBA players? We're already watching the Wizards give up 83 points to Bam.
Right.
Are there enough great players to support a 32-team model? Beyond that, like Pro Football Talk today, it's like, oh, the NBA expands. Is the NFL next? There's already 16 teams that don't have good quarterbacks. Do you want to add 2 more? And now you got 18 teams that don't have great quarterbacks.
I wonder if more college kids would want to come out because they get to be the face of a franchise.
And then like in baseball, it's like if you add teams, is there enough pitching?
Especially baseball, because you've seen if teams aren't going to spend, if you're not going to have a salary floor, that's a massive problem.
Let's go to the phones real quick. I think somebody has, what's this about? March Madness? All right. Peter wants to weigh in on March Madness. 877-767-4760. Peter, you're on with John and Sammy. Thanks for calling in, man. I can't hear. Can we hear?
Are we not hearing something?
You can't hear me either. Hold on. Weird.
Oh, that's odd.
All right, hold on. Brent's working on it. Give us 1 second, Peter. Give us 1 second. He can hear me.
Do we have our headphones turned up? I have my headphones turned up now.
Right now. All right, Peter, try us in the 3:00 hour. We'll get back to you. We'll figure it out. All right, on the other side, we're going to hear from Dave Velasquez after that Saturday Aztec loss in the Mountain West Championship game, what he had to say about San Diego State on Saturday and in 2026. Plus, Kevin Acee will join the show live coming up at 3:30. Sammy, appreciate you, man. Let's do this again tomorrow. All right, that's Sammy Long. I'm John Schaefer. Brent Sperry, of course, with us on the other side here until 6 on San Diego Sports 760.
This report is sponsored by Odoo.com, all your business apps in one place. In NFL news, the Chiefs sent a 2027 sixth round pick to the Jets for quarterback Justin Fields. The 49ers signed a 1-year deal with wide receiver Christian Kirk, and cornerback Darius Slay announced his retirement from the league after 13 seasons. He was a 6-time Pro Bowler and was a first-team All-Pro in 2017, and he also had 28 career interceptions. Tonight, we've got Lakers basketball on San Diego Sports 760 when they take on the Rockets. Pregame coverage will begin at 6:15, and tip will be at 6:30. Your business deserves tools to make you feel in control, not overwhelmed. With Odoo's all-in-one, easy-to-use platform, everything is together so you can focus on what matters. Start at Odoo.com today. That's ODOO.com.
All right, San Diego Sports 760. Kevin AC will join us coming up live at 3:30. Our Padres insider is actually in Miami for the WBC semis and final, which will play out throughout the course of this week. Of course, the U.S. team is moving on. They'll face either Italy or Venezuela in the WBC, is it title game, championship game, whatever it is, later this week in Miami, Florida. So Kevin will join us coming up at 3:30. I see some of these texts in the text line we can get into. 70470 started with the word team. Before we hear from Dave Velasquez, by the way, Brian Dutcher will join us live tomorrow at 2:30. So Dutch is on the show tomorrow at 2:30. But Dutch issued a statement yesterday after San Diego State didn't receive an NCAA tournament bid, and he was so respectful, as he always is. He's always going to, it's just who he is, right? In his DNA. And I think he laid out the point that, listen, we thought the Mountain West had a good year. But we're respectful of the committee's process. And I'm paraphrasing right now. But he went on to say, because I've seen a lot of this chatter among Aztec fans, why aren't we playing in the NIT? Why aren't we playing in the Crown? It's a new tournament in Las Vegas. Players must be checked out. They must all want to enter the transfer portal since we're not in the NIT. Hold on. It's not 1986 anymore. Okay? Things change. Consider the following factors, and Brian Dutcher will join us live tomorrow with more. 2 of your 5 starters are out. LZ Harrington has a significant leg injury. Okay? He's been wearing a boot. He's been dealing with a leg injury. That's why he's out. Not because he's in the transfer portal. I don't know what's going to happen with any player moving forward, but I'm telling you, he's been dealing with an injury, as Brian Dutcher has spoken about. Miles Heide has a wrist injury that's going to keep him out now for a while that he suffered on Friday. 2 of your 5 starters are out. And if you've been watching, like a lot of our listeners have been, these players are hobbled. Look at Miles Bird right now, right? Like look at, they're in a spot where they are not anywhere near 100% health. And I just think at this point, it makes more sense. Why would you go into it hobbled? It probably doesn't make any sense. I mean, you're going into the NCAA tournament hobbled if you can get into the tournament, because that's the ultimate goal and the ultimate prize, obviously. But to go play, with all due respect, like to go play, I don't know, name a program at home. I mean, to go play Sam Houston at home, you're going to, jeopardize more health just to host an NIT game, which, oh, by the way, you can't do because Viejas Arena is hosting the NCAA tournament. So now you're down 2 starters playing a game at UCSD or on the road. What is there to gain? If you beat Sam Houston, what do people say? Well, of course they beat Sam Houston. They had to. If you lose to Sam Houston, what are people going to say? How could you lose to Sam Houston in the NIT? The team's so checked out. So to me, it makes perfect sense. I think that for a program like San Diego State, the prize was the NCAA tournament. I'm not saying there's not another scenario in the history of the world where they could play in an NIT or a Crown tournament. Maybe sometimes it makes more sense than others. Maybe you're healthier. Maybe you're younger. Maybe you use it as a jumping off point for your next season. But I think they put everything into this past weekend, and they got to the championship game, came up short, and they're at a point where it's probably more important to turn their attention to next season and get healthier than it is to go play Sam Houston right now. And that's with all due respect. I don't think we have a lot of Sam Houston listeners, but you get the point. I think most people understand the point. Does this start with me asking a question, Brent, or is this self-contained? I don't know where it starts. All right, so this was Dave Velasquez postgame. Aztecs lose Saturday to Utah State in the Mountain West Championship. Again, everything to play for. There's just a lot that goes into that. So this is immediately off the floor with longtime assistant Dave Velasquez. I started the conversation by asking him for his initial thoughts. We're having a little bit. There we go.
Utah State. I mean, the defense their defense was good enough to just keep us stagnant long enough where we couldn't get into a really rhythm and flow. And while that was happening, and we got great shots. I mean, Miles Bird's transition three. If he makes that, this is a whole different game. And maybe I'm not maybe I'm not with you right now. And we're celebrating. It was just such a momentum changer. And the foul call where Reese did push him on, but then they called the M1 plus the free throws. That was a momentum changer, a momentum killer. And that defense that they play is unique. I mean, the only one that plays it in the country. And the first game around we played okay against it. We had some stretches, but we had we cut better. Day 3 days and third game in 3 days, and it's never an excuse, but we just didn't cut enough. We didn't get enough ball movement. We got too stagnant on offense, and that's a credit to their defense. It's unique. It's hard to figure out. And to be honest with you, there's a guy on their team, a freshman, 35 Elamine. I mean, his length and his disruption in the first half, he was out, and he had foul trouble in the second half. You look at his stat sheet, and it's one of those things as a fan you don't really understand. That kid maybe had the most impact on the game. He's plus 16 on the plus minus in his 24 minutes that he played. And so he obviously changed the game for them in a lot of different ways, just with his length, athleticism, and just disappointed, John, disappointed for all the seniors and, not never knowing in this new world that you're going to be with this group again, and tired of this feeling on these Saturdays. I'm proud of our guys for getting us here, and we've been getting it here, and it's tough, and it's a group that it has been smooth sailing. There's been some highs, there's been some lows, but we stayed connected, we stayed together, and we continue to fight behind the scenes, and not a lot of finger pointing at all. And we just unfortunately came up one game short. This would have been just an unbelievable bow to put on this conference season if we got the job done tonight. But credit Utah State, they did a good job.
It's such an unforgiving sport. I mean, it comes down to something like this. Now we'll wait. Obviously, there is a selection committee. It'll be in their hands come Sunday. We'll see what they determine for San Diego State. Can we discuss a little bit the issues that they gave you in terms of live ball turnovers? They're plus 8 in this game. They forced 14. And you look at the points off turnovers at 17-4. That was obviously a massive part of the game, and that was something that Utah State was able to have success on tonight.
Yeah, and some of the turnovers we had, you just look back and say, those are just silly turnovers, and you got to avoid those. And the thing about their defense is, it's built to have those runouts. I mean, when you get a turnover, you have the two guards. They're just sitting at the top of the key. I mean, they're 3 feet above the top of the key. If you get a steal, I mean, their first 3 steps, they're way beyond any guy that could catch up to them. So, and again, it's, we didn't play well enough offensively to win, but at the same time, defensively, we let them in the paint too much. I mean, we had guarded Mason Falls left for how many times we played that kid. All he does is drive right. Yeah. I mean, we just lost concentration there towards the end. He had 4 right-handed drives that just unacceptable for how we play defensively. But again, this is just a weird time because I'd love to sit here and just talk about, all our older guys, but the only guy I can really sit here and talk about, to be honest with you, is Reese Waters. Yeah. I mean, I've known Reese since he's in 7th or 8th grade. He's been so close to so many people that Aztec fans love, from coached by Tony Bland in high school. And, Reese went to USC, and he wanted to come to San Diego State out of high school, but USC he just felt like, I'm going to give this a chance. With the USC, wasn't enjoying it as much, and he came down here and, went to a Sweet 16 his first year, and first had the foot injury. And then, dang, how many minutes do you have to play tonight? I mean, he played 38 minutes and 10 seconds tonight. I mean, he went 8 for 12, 20 points, and I just love that kid. I love everything about Reese Waters. And but that's what this is about. It hurts, and every team goes through this. And that 23 year, we were one of the two that, in every time there's this night. This night, and hopefully we have tomorrow with a selection Sunday. But we all kind of understand what the deal is with that. And with Sean Newman and Jeremiah Odom, got to feel what it feels to be an Aztec and put a ring on. And it means a lot to do that. To put a banner up and to win a conference championship is what we live by. And championships and banners in Viejas. That's our number one goal every single year.
Yeah, I remember earlier in the year when Magoon went down, and we knew the impact it would have back in January. And right when you get him back healthier, he's playing some brilliant basketball. He plays 32 minutes today. How he's able to do that 15 hours after last night. And he made some plays down the stretch where he gave you at least a glimmer of hope in the final 2 or 3 minutes. What can you say about what Magoon showed you over the course of this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, that's the one that you just, golly, if we had that for a couple months. He just battled so many injuries. And the thing that fans need to understand is everyone thinks, okay, well, these kids are getting paid and they got to fight through these injuries and they got to be 100% all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, injuries wear on you mentally. I mean, it's not easy. I mean, it's a mental challenge. And you get so fatigued mentally when you have to go through as many injuries as he did and rehab sessions and go to doctor appointments and just never feeling comfortable,
right?
And I was happy that we had about as good as we've had all season. Magoon Block, to be honest with you. I mean, that's about as best he's looked, and it's just sad. You have guys like Miles Bird who it's just such an Aztec for life. He has it tatted on his leg, and
yep.
Him and I talk about it all the time. We got it tatted on our hearts too, because nobody can see it.
Yeah.
So it's not fun.
It's not, and it's a part of sports, obviously. There's two sides to it, and Utah State obviously celebrating. What do you do now for the next 24 hours? Nothing you can do.
Nothing
obviously, the basketball is finished.
Nothing you can do. You try to just think positive, optimistic. Crazier things have happened.
No doubt.
There's been crazier things have happened. I mean, shoot, have you had to ask Carolina's staff last year before we played them?
They thought
you
they
had
were
to ask
done.
that. Yeah, they thought they were done after the Duke loss, in the conference tournament. So I don't, again, it's think optimistically, and then we'll figure that all out. There'll be enough time for that, and there'll be plenty of time for everything else. So just disappointed tonight. Saturdays haven't been very nice to us in the Mountain West Conference tournament, but we've given ourselves, every chance but one last year to play in this game ever since Coach Dutch has been the head coach, which is an unbelievable feat. It really is.
It's amazing.
It's an amazing feat. And as hard as we play defense and as hard as we play, and it's hard to do for 3 games in 3 days. It really is. And we've got it done a few times, but lately it's been a bugaboo to not get this job done.
Yeah, real quick, and I'll let you on. It's interesting because yesterday we say goodbye to San Diego State, New Mexico in the same league. But now we fast forward, and San Diego State, Utah State has turned into an incredible series itself. And, of course, you'll both transition to a new league next year. I'm sure you're anticipating much more of this down the road with these two programs moving forward.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you kidding? This is what it's going to be.
Yep.
I mean, these are some. I mean, Utah State, whatever happens with Coach Calhoun, and whether he stays or goes. I mean, I think proof's in the pudding. They're going to make a pretty good decision on their next head coach. I mean, and then when we're going into a new league, and there's no as a coach, you have to understand. Coach Dutcher last night, some of his words about the Mountain West. We're coaches. We have no say in what goes on in terms of the conference affiliation of that. We've had an unbelievable run in the Mountain West. This has been a special place to play in for a long time, and now we're moving on to something new. Everything's been new, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the portal's new. I mean, NIL's new, and now we're going to a new conference. And so at the same time, we have to continue to stay who we are and have the same San Diego State tradition and cultures about championships and banners, NBA House Arena, no matter what the conference logo is. And that's the goal moving forward, and it always will be the goal.
All right, really enjoyed the conversation. Obviously, Aztec fans were looking for a different result, players, the coaching staff as well. But that was, again, Dave Velasquez with us Saturday afternoon at the Thomas & Mack. San Diego State falling to Utah State in their final run through the Mountain West tournament. Remember what the saying is, it's better to be right than first, right? When reporting on sports news, we have a classic example to share with you that's developing right now on the other side. In addition, Kevin Acee, our Padres insider, live from Miami, Florida, the site of the WBC semifinals and championship game. We'll get into the impact of being without Joe Musgrove to start the season at 3:30 with Kevin Acee. Stay with us on San Diego Sports 760. All right, San Diego Sports 760. Kevin AC joining us live in less than 15 minutes. We do remind you, man, the tournament is here. Again, bittersweet because San Diego State's been in it so often. And for the first time since when? Since 2019. Think about that. For the first time since 2019, San Diego State is not in the tournament. Now, tomorrow and Wednesday, we have the first 4 tournament action for you right here on 760. Tomorrow at 3:30, of course, it's UMBC and Howard. That showdown, followed by Texas and NC State. Wednesday at 3:30, Prairie View A&M and Lehigh, followed by Miami of Ohio, one of the stories of the last couple of weeks, and SMU, your home for March Madness in San Diego Sports 760. All right, listen to this story, Brent, that is playing out on social media right now. Evan Drelich is a really good baseball reporter for The Athletic. He's been on this show, or he's been on this station over the years, maybe a couple of times. I think he came up covering the Giants, but he's been on the station, right? So he tweets out, and let's see, he tweeted out earlier that breaking, Miguel Rojas of the LA Dodgers has been suspended 80 games for use of a banned substance. Okay, very credible reporter, Evan. I mean, this is not typically the guy that's throwing stuff against walls. That is not what he's known for. He's not breaking trades typically. He's more in like labor and baseball. So he tweets this out, right? Well, the problem is he wasn't suspended. The actual player suspended is Johan Rojas of the Phillies, not Miguel Rojas of the Dodgers. And he then followed up by saying, I've deleted a post incorrectly identifying who was suspended today. It was Johan Rojas of the Phillies who has been suspended. Well, that's a big miss when you're tying someone to PEDs and you're a credible reporter from The Athletic. Now, he did delete the tweet, but of course the internet never forgets, and that tweet will live on forever with just a screenshot. But again, better to be right than first, especially in today's world with social media. And again, Evan Drelich is not that guy. He's not just sending stuff out immediately and getting 70% of the stuff right. He's really good, but that's one of those things, man. That's a worst nightmare for me to say something like that and then get it wrong. That's not a good look for anyone involved.
God, we did that one day. Who was it? It was, we didn't look at the name quick enough. You might remember this. We thought it was NFL news, only it was from somebody that had like an extra letter in the name where it was supposed to be. So it wasn't like the real person, because it was some breaking news on something and we went on air with it. And then like 10 minutes later, we're like, oh, never mind. That's not the real Adam Schefter. Because it was Adam Schefter with 3 T's.
I'll go way further than that, dude. I'll go back 8 years. My first year here, when I was out in the newsroom, and Steve and Costa were on the air, and you may have been right there. In fact, you were, in all likelihood, barring you were definitely there. So tell me if you remember this exact moment. It was the same thing on social media. It was like Jeff Passan, right? Not Jeff Passan. It was like Jeff Passan, like Japanese slugger Shohei Ohtani will go to the Padres. This was before he was ever with the Angels, right? I mean, and I think I came in and I mentioned it to like Costa or Hartman, or I sent them the text, or I mentioned it to you. I don't even know what happened. I mean, this is like 8.5 years ago. I blacked it out of my memory, but I think for one brief second, Steve was like, "Oh, Tony's going to the Padres," and I was like, "Oh wait, never mind." But that is, someone listening probably remembers that moment, and that was not probably our finest hour when that happened. But I guess the point is, it can happen. You have to be so careful, in my opinion. At the end of the day, if you report on these sports, does it really matter if you beat someone by a minute? Even being a minute later, you're going to get the traction. You're going to get the retweets. Yeah, someone will be like, Jeff passing out at first over Ken Rosenthal. But I go back to, what was it, Max Scherzer with the Padres in 2021, where Ken Rosenthal was like, it's a formality. He even went further than that. And then, of course, it never came to be. And he can't live that down 5 years later with Padres fans.
Well, it'd be one thing, too, if it was like, oh, my God, Shohei Ohtani tested positive for 4. I got to get a scoop for that. It's Miguel Rojas.
It's Miguel Rojas. Now, he had a massive moment, obviously, last year in the World Series. But no, that is right. If it's Shohei Ohtani, like, for example, the gambling probe involving his translator, it's a massive story.
His career isn't going to be made by getting the scoop on Miguel Rojas.
Right. That's a great point. That is such a good point. And, you know, here I'll give you the biggest example of a player being popped for PEDs in the last decade is Fernando Tatis Jr., correct? There is no one to the equal of Fernando Tatis Jr. I mean, he's one of the most high-profile players in baseball history to be suspended for PEDs, honestly. I mean, he's not the most high-profile, but certainly in this era, coming out of that steroid era, Tatis is right there. Yeah, I don't even know who broke that story. I think it was Jeff Passan. I think it was Jeff Passan that sent that out. And I remember my jaw dropped. We were on air, Brent. Remember how many calls we took that day? How mad people were at Tatis in 2022? Rightfully so, I think. But you're right. If it's Toddy, if it's Ohtani, Miguel Rojas, what are we doing? And like, how do you get that wrong? Like, you got the last name right. Like, there was a Rojas suspended for 80 days. Did you just glance over it? Like, how do you even get that wrong that it's actually a Rojas of the Phillies as opposed to a Rojas of the Dodgers, I wonder, to even get that wrong, but neither here nor there. Kevin Acee again will join us at 3:30. I did want to mention a couple of, we mentioned this previously, that, and this news came out today, obviously the Olympics in 2028, soccer is going to be played at Snapdragon Stadium, right? We talked about that with 2028. And the initial thought was, I remember JD Wicker joining us, so we'll get him on at some point over the next week or two. They've got a crazy week with Viejas hosting NCAA tournament games. But I remember JD Wicker said, we don't know how many matches we're going to get. And it sounded like it was going to be like, I'm making it, 2, 3, 4, because they might get like a semifinal, which is awesome, and a quarterfinal, because the tournament was going east to west and they were finishing in the Rose Bowl and we were going to get it before it finished, like a men's game and a women's game. Amazing. It's the Olympics in San Diego. Well, guess what they announced today? 11 matches are coming to San Diego, which is a massive number, not just 11 matches. One men's and women's semifinal and both the men's and women's third place games, which they do in the Olympics for the bronze, obviously, will be played in San Diego, as well as 7 other matches in July of 2028. So a big coup, I would say, for San Diegans and Snapdragon and San Diego State to get 11 Olympic soccer matches are coming to San Diego, because we know that with the Olympic Games in LA, most of the events obviously are in LA County, duh. But they actually have like softball in Oklahoma City and something else in Oklahoma City, which I don't know why, because they have softball facilities. But for San Diego to get 11 soccer matches is like, that means if you're a San Diegan, and even without going to LA County, I mean, you might just be a soccer fan. You might go on 4 or 5 different days and see Olympic soccer. So kind of a cool opportunity for San Diegans coming up with, again, 11 men's or women's soccer matches, including semifinals and third place matches coming to Snapdragon Stadium in 2 years. All right, Kevin Acee from Miami, where the WBC semifinals are halfway set. The final is halfway set because Italy, Venezuela will meet the U.S. later this week. We'll catch up with Kevin on Joe Musgrove, on the pending ownership sale of the San Diego Padres, and on the WBC. He'll join us live next on San Diego Sports 760.
This report is sponsored by Staples. In NFL news, the Chiefs are sending a 2026 sixth-round pick to the Jets for quarterback Justin Fields. And the 49ers signed a one-year deal with wide receiver Christian Kirk. And cornerback Darius Slay announced his retirement from the league after 13 seasons. He was a 6-time Pro Bowler and an All-Pro in 2017. He also had 28 interceptions in his career. Tonight, we've got Lakers basketball on San Diego Sports 760 when they take on the Rockets. Pre-game coverage will begin at 6:15 with the tip at 6:30. Staples has hundreds of great ways to boost your brand, like spectacular signs, brilliant brochures, eye-popping posters, mouth-watering menus, and more. Shop now through April 18th and save up to $125 on all your custom prints. Staples, that was easy.
All right, Kevin AC, our Padres insider, covering the WBC this week. Of course, we had that Classic last night, and we'll get a championship game played in the next day or so. And then, of course, the Padres opening day is just over a week away. So a lot going on with the Padres. And Kevin, we appreciate you taking time for us. What was last night like for the U.S. and the Dominican, and being a part of that atmosphere in that game? What was that like?
The atmosphere was a lot of fun, and I thought the game was fantastic. It certainly wasn't perfectly played. The Dominican had a lot of chances to win. But I mean, the pitching, the defense. I mean, we talk about the offense of those two teams, and the offense of the Dominican. A lot of Gold Glovers out there, especially there's a lot of Gold Glovers, the United States, and that's a good team. Yeah, it was. I tell you what, there's not any comparison that any of us who have seen any type of game, including World Series games. I'm not saying that it's more important. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying the World Series atmosphere isn't great, because it is. But in terms of just playing for the name on the front of your chest that is your country, and then the fans and the connection between the fans and the players, and especially a place like the Dominican, and you can feel it. It's really exciting.
Is it? I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. Just like the Machado Tatis angle, maybe more Machado than Tatis. Is it fair to be critical of any one player in any one game? I mean, it's such a unique event. This isn't best of even 3 or 5 or 7. It's like, well, this player went 1 for 4. I mean, we're talking about one baseball game against elite pitching. So, like, do you feel like Machado having an opportunity to come through and failing to do so reinforces a big game narrative that he's not a clutch player, or is that completely unfair considering the circumstance?
I think it's both. I mean, you know how I try to see like all the shades of gray,
yep.
And I absolutely agree with you. But it's like, yeah, like it does reinforce the narrative, but like that's unfair. I mean, this is. Right. I mean, look, if you give the Dominican, or look, the United States lost to Italy, right? Mm-hmm. Do you think in a best of 3, a best of 5, a best of 7, they were going to lose to Italy? Or if they're in the same division as Italy, they're going to lose or finish behind Italy? Right. No chance in the world, and that's why baseball has as many games as it has. As in, playoff series and a 162-game season. And that should also be how a player is evaluated. But we are now talking about it being another game on top of Manny's career, right? Mm-hmm. Like, so I don't know that it's entirely unfair. Plus, you sign up for it. I mean, so yeah. And, absolutely. It's fair to put it in context. And I think it does help provide some context. But your point, and you know that it's my point, you've known me long enough, yep. that these small sample sizes and losing our minds over that, is not right.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think everything, it's like, certain things are black and white, but a lot of things in sports are gray. And there's some nuance to what's playing out in something like the WBC. Kevin AC is with us right now in San Diego Sports 760. You've been reporting on Joe Musgrove likely starting the year on the IL for multiple days, but now it's become closer to officially official from Craig Stammen. What's the overall impact here to start the year? Again, we've known that this is a possibility for more than just a few hours at this point. What will it ultimately mean for the Padres as they break camp and start the season?
Theoretically, right, it opens up another rotation spot, and that's something that they've been aware of for 7 days or so. 7 to 10 days, that, okay, well, it looks like that's what we're going to have to do. But does it open up another rotation spot, or do they go with 4 starters and rely on their bullpen? And that's easier done than you would think, given that they have a day off in day 4 of the season, day 8 of the season. And they have a really strong bullpen. They have some guys who pitched really well for multiple innings. Kyle Hart, Logan Gillespie till recently, Jackson Wolf. You could have Herman Marquez added to your bullpen, or have him be a starter on a really short leash. But, you know, those days off and their strong bullpen give them some options to be creative. I mean, I've mapped it out where they can be creative for the season's first month, but everything would have to go right. As in, you know, one of their starters, their established guys, can't go 3 innings, or they certainly can't have 2 short starts in a row. And then, you know, they could actually make it through like the season's first month with 4 starters. They're not going to do that. That's not how it goes. And that does set them up for catastrophic failure in terms of overworking your bullpen, which they're just not going to do. But they do have creativity, at least for, say, the first 10 games or so.
Is it one of those things where, and I know I probably talked to you about it just a few days ago, but is it one of those things where you just kind of don't know with Musgrove in terms of what comes next?
Yeah.
As in nobody's going to say, oh my gosh, his season's lost. That's not the point. My issue always with guys coming off Tommy John is that it's hard to trust their level of consistency. And it just feels like that's where we're heading in 2026, maybe with Joe Musgrove, or maybe it's premature to say that.
Right. No, this reinforces that, right? Like it was always well, you know what? At some point, you know, first off, the performance might not be great, or there might be some real peaks and valleys. But, oh, boy, now it's like the start of the season where he's not feeling right. And so now it's kind of like, the way I phrase it is like, it's not a big deal, but it certainly is not ideal. Like this is like the fact that it's at the beginning of the season, just like I said, does reinforce that, oh, boy, we don't know what we're going to get from Joe Musgrove.
Yeah, again, not overly encouraging, but again, it's hard to really know its true impact until we get going and see what he can do or provide this year. I saw that you had quote tweeted something from your colleague Jan Van Grove, right? And I know you and I have talked about this a lot. The idea that the Padres obviously are on the verge of being sold, and you know, to calm nerves, nobody wants to ever envision a world where the San Diego Padres are leaving San Diego. We still feel the same way, right? That San Diego is a big piece of the purchase that's coming in the future, that it's important to be in San Diego based on all the things we've talked about: Petco Park, fan support, market. I mean, there's no reason for concern, right?
There is zero reason for concern. Now, I want to say this, like 10 years from now, like they have let the thing go to crap, and we're back to a situation where, you know, 15,000 people are showing up to watch them play the White Sox on a Tuesday or something. But like, I'm just, you know what I mean? I'm telling you, in telling you that, like this apocalyptic world, I'm reinforcing like that's so far from what they are now and what you would think they would be allowed to be again with a new owner with even more money, you know, coming in. Like, no, absolutely. I mean, it's just impossible. You know, here, we want to know how far-fetched it is. Jen reported that they could opt out in 31, I believe, in 2031. The Padres didn't even know that. They thought it was 33. But based on what I guess the city has paid back, I believe it is, that like now that, because that's what it's tied to, right? It was 2033, but it's based on, you know, the bonds being paid off and all that. It's 2031 now. The Padres just, and I think I had reported before, like that, like the Padres haven't even looked at their lease. Like it's not a thing that has been a part of the new owner's due diligence in terms of, hey, in terms of that portion of it, like, hey, what's our possibility to leave, right? But then in her reporting, she finds out this, and I believe that's where the Padres found out, or maybe when she was asking about it as it came up. But like the point being, they just aren't concerned about this, and the new owners aren't. There's so many reasons that it's preposterous, but the reason that I'm going on and on about it is because I do get it. I mean, look what happened with the Chargers, and look, I was wrong about the Chargers. I was a columnist back then. There was virtually no one in the NFL thought they were moving, and then Dean Spanos up and moved. Right. So, like, by virtue of that, I was wrong. Even though, and I'm not going to give away like sources, but like the highest levels of the NFL, oh no, this isn't going to happen. Eventually, we're going to figure it out. Nope, Dean Spanos left. So boom, oh my gosh, it could happen here again. No, it's like comparing apples and bricks.
Yeah, I think it's well said. It's not something. I don't think Padres fans should be losing sleep over that. You might want to lose sleep over like Joe Musgrove right now, but nobody can predict the future. Like you said, nobody can look 10 plus years down the road. You're reporting on Mason. Mason Miller's been incredible, as we've seen in a Padres uniform and obviously play out now for Team USA. Is he going to be available for this final game? And I mean, this is just ridiculous, right? The stat that hitters are 0 for 50 with 39 strikeouts against Mason Miller since September 8th. I mean, this guy's on like another planet right now.
Yeah, he is. And to be who he is, I mean, pitching's ahead of hitting right now, right?
Yep.
Like, all things considered, unless you're some single A kid pitching for Israel against Fernando Tatis Jr. But like, this is Mason Miller. Like, he's just light years ahead. The Padres game planned all this out with themselves, with Mason Miller, with the U.S. before, right? Like you look at the schedule and you go, hey, that's a possibility that guy could pitch 3 times in 5 days. Are we going to be okay with that? Yeah, you know what? We're okay with that, but we need Mason Miller to be honest about it, like at the time. So I do think that to a certain extent, while it looks like he's going to, from everybody that I've talked to, be available to pitch tomorrow in the championship game, that, Mason Miller could wake up tomorrow and go, hey, I don't know, this is a little different or something like that. Or he could go warm up and be like, no, this is a little different. Now, what are the chances of that happening? This guy all geeked up to pitch in a championship game for the United States. But the Padres have been completely cool with that because they have already looked ahead and said, yeah, look, he started throwing 3 weeks early, and he's all good. But hey, like every reliever, you're gonna hold out a little bit that says, how do they feel at game time?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's going to be, I mean, again, he's been such an important piece, and we'll see if he closes the door potentially on a Team USA title in the 2026 WBC. Kevin, appreciate you taking time. Safe travels this week. And it's crazy that we're a week out, right? I mean, a week out from opening day or just over. Right? It's kind of insane.
Yeah, it really is. But that's how it does. Spring training sneaks up on you, and then the season doesn't if you are at spring training for 6 weeks.
Good point.
All of a sudden, it's kind of like, oh my gosh. Yeah, wow. And I get super excited. And I get to do get my stat books all ready. I'm going to be fired up when I get back on Wednesday.
All right. Safe travels again, and we'll catch up later in the week. And thanks for hopping on. All right, Kevin AC, our Padres insider. We can react to that on the other side. Plus, we've got a giveaway for you here today. So stay with us on San Diego Sports 760. All right, San Diego Sports 760. Again, we do have a giveaway for you here today. Brent, do we know Neo songs? We don't. Okay. We've got a pair of tickets to see Neo August 18th. I feel like I do. Just been a while. At the North Island Credit Union Amphitheater. So if you want tickets to that, be listening. We'll give those away between now and let's say 5 p.m. Pair of tickets to see Neo August 18th, North Island Credit Union Amphitheater. Tickets and info at Ticketmaster.com. All right, good connecting with Kevin Acee. Again, the story of the day, I think, is Joe Musgrove and the fact that he'll likely start the year on the IL. The story that we referenced there from Kevin about the future of the Padres after a sale. Again, there's some in-depth reporting from Jen Van Grove at the UT about like the lease structure of the Padres. And yeah, okay. I mean, I guess that's basically most organizations are going to have a way, if they really desired, to probably like change locales. We hear it all the time. Like in the NFL, if a team doesn't get a stadium built, they're like, well, we would consider leaving. Same thing in all sports. I feel like it's something you hold over a city and a fan base as leverage to potentially get what you desire, financially, so to speak. But it's like, it doesn't make sense to me that somebody would put up a $3 billion bid and then move the San Diego Padres. Like that would be their ultimate desire. Now, maybe I'm naive. Maybe I am. I mean, maybe there's something I haven't considered at play, but like, what's the big win there? It's like you're drawing 3 million fans. You've got all the attention in the world post Charger San Diego, which means you've got extra marketing dollars. You've got the ticket holders. I mean, you've got real resources. Okay, you don't have the same TV dollars as the LA Dodgers. Well, guess what? You're not going to, even if you moved. Not moving to LA. You're not like, where's the big, oh man, now that I bought this team for $3 billion, I'm going to turn it to $7 billion by moving to X. Where? You take the Padres and move them to Montreal. That's the big win. Take the Padres and move them to Mexico City. It doesn't make any sense. Like all of these, I mean, we're talking about Major League Baseball here. The markets are covered that should be covered. I mean, what's the big untapped market that you're going to spend a record amount of money on just to then go move the team? It doesn't make any sense. There's so many reasons for it to not happen. Now, again, by the letter of the law, I appreciate the reporting because technically speaking, of course, there's going to be leases. And of course, there's going to be ways to potentially, position a franchise moving forward. So I can't sit here today and tell you, 500 years from now, the Padres will be playing in San Diego. I doubt I'll be doing this show in 500 years.
You don't think?
I don't know. Potentially, honestly.
Just your head in a jar.
Who knows what technology we'll have in 500 years. But I mean, like Kevin said, I mean, it was interesting. He was like, I'm not saying they're not moving, but like it's a conversation for like a decade plus from now. And I don't even want to have that conversation is my point. I think that's even going too far to be like, hey, be aware in the next 10 or 20 years, be on high alert. There's just no reason to do it. But John, the Clippers left. Who cares? How's that relevant? But John, the Rockets left. Yeah, a million years ago. Like before it was forever ago. But John, the Chargers left. Okay. How's it relevant? But John, look at Oakland. They used to have 3 teams. Listen, I'm not telling you we've seen the last relocation in sports, but I'm just telling you, I don't feel like there's any reason for real concern that just because the Padres are being sold, they're going to be moved. They've been sold before. They've been sold a lot over the last 50 years, right? They have. They've been sold a number of times over the last 50 years. And you know how many times they've moved over the last 50 years? Let me answer that. They haven't. And I would argue that they're better off today than they've probably been at any point in the history of the franchise because they have the market viability. They don't have any other professional teams in the Big Four around them. They've got the ballpark that they've, moved heaven and earth on. They've invested in that ballpark. It's a spectacular ballpark in downtown San Diego. They have the fan support. So again, is it worthy of having a conversation? Again, the UT's written about it. And I don't know who the next owner of the San Diego Padres is going to be. So I can't say never because nobody can do that. You can't predict what's going to happen in the future. But even in the reporting, like Jen Van Grove per Kevin made the Padres aware their lease ended after 2031 as opposed to 2033. Didn't even know that. So it doesn't sound like they're like currently shopping offers around the country to go get a brand new ballpark built in Nashville. Like that to me doesn't seem to be the primary motivation of the next owner of the San Diego Padres. But I can't say that for certain because I'm not the next owner of the San Diego Padres. But we have way more concerns. Like I'm way more concerned about Joe Musgrove and Manny Machado. I just am. I mean, I'm way more concerned about 2026 than I am 2036. You know, I mean, in 2036, we'll talk about 2036. But in 2026, I want to see the Padres in the postseason. I want to see the rotation healthy. I want to see Craig Stammen hopefully, manage as effectively as Mike Schilt, if not more effectively than that. I want to see the team get back to the postseason and this time win a series or more in the postseason. That's what primarily concerns me right now. I want to know who the next owner of the Padres is. I do. And San Diego ties maybe in this conversation become something that is an important conversation. But I mean, we heard from John Seidler with the media when spring training started, and I just don't see it. I really don't. I don't see it. Now, could I see in 2026 again this team not winning 90 games like they did in 2025? Yes. Those are the things, the on-field things I can see. Like I go to Fangraphs, I see they're projected to win 79 games. So there's some things I can see that are concerning that aren't moving the franchise. I'm concerned that their rotation doesn't hold up. I'm concerned about their lineup that was 28th best in baseball last year in home runs hit. Like those are my concerns about the San Diego Padres. I'm concerned about an aging core, not Tatis and Merrill, but Machado, Musgrove, Sander, right? I mean, those are the things that worry me as someone that covers the Padres each and every day. And as you guys know, we cover it literally each and every day. So that's my 2 cents on it. And sometimes it's like, I don't spend time on that whole ownership and relocation conversation because I don't even want to give it any effort or energy because I think it's unnecessary. But on the other hand, if it is being reported on in the Union Tribune or if it is being discussed by Padres fans, I don't want to completely discount it either, if that makes sense. So I feel like it's worthy of a 10-minute conversation. I'm happy to have a 10-minute conversation. I'm not going to talk about it every day. Because again, I think in my heart of hearts, this team is going to be here for as long as I'm here. And I have plans of going nowhere in terms of being in San Diego. So again, is the team 50 years from now going to be in the same location? Who knows? Who cares? I mean, we all care, but nobody can predict what's going to happen in the next 50 or 100 years. But for the time being and moving forward, it sounds like you can rest assured. And it's not something to, again, get all worked up over. I'm getting more worked up over their farm system and their rotation and their lineup than I am about the possibility of a lease ending at some point in the 2030s. All right, we'll give away those tickets to see Neo August 18th at the North Island Credit Union Amphitheater. We'll do that in the 4 o'clock hour. And we'll get to the wrap as well in the 4 o'clock hour. And if you missed our conversation with Kevin Acee, you'll hear that coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. So a lot to get to. Again, we're here until 6 p.m. Again, we do have NCAA tournament action for you throughout the course of the week. So we got kind of an interesting week here on San Diego Sports 760. Tomorrow and Wednesday, we've got first 4 games. And then Thursday and Friday, of course, all of the round of 64 action. But we are your exclusive home in San Diego of the NCAA tournament on Westwood One, including tomorrow beginning at 3:30 with the first 4 from Dayton, Ohio. We will get to the wrap on the other side. We are here until 6. Stay with us on San Diego Sports 760.
This report is sponsored by Staples. The Chiefs sent a 2027 6th-round pick to the Jets today for quarterback Justin Fields. The Niners signed a 1-year deal with wide receiver Christian Kirk, and cornerback Darius Slay announced his retirement from the NFL after 13 seasons. He was a 6-time Pro Bowler and an All-Pro in 2017 who had 28 career interceptions. We have Lakers basketball tonight on San Diego Sports 760 when they take on the Rockets. Pre-game coverage will begin at 6:15. The tip will be at 6. Want a great way to boost your brand? Custom labels at Staples will help packages pop, shipments stand out, and takeout boxes really take off. Shop now through April 18th and save 30% on all custom labels. Staples, that was easy.
All right, we'll give away these Neo tickets coming up this hour. That's August, 18th. North Island Credit Union Amphitheater, a pair of tickets to see Neo. We'll give those away coming up this hour. In fact, we'll do it between now and 4:30. If you missed Kevin Acey, you'll hear a conversation coming up at 5:30. Plus, we do have the latest from the Padres on Mason Miller's availability. So will he or won't he pitch in the WBC final? It's one of my issues with a tournament like this. And I've seen the fanfare. I won't deny it. And I watched last night. It's good theater. It is. They deserve credit for the tournament they've created over the last 20 years. It is a scene. It's beneficial for Major League Baseball. It's got huge viewership by baseball standards. I know it does. I haven't seen the numbers for yesterday. I know it'll be a big number. Stars everywhere, right? I mean, just everywhere. Paul Skeens, obviously, and that U.S. lineup and the Machados and the Tatises, the whole Dominican lineup. And it was very good theater. There was a lot of intrigue. It could have gone either way. Very good baseball game. One of my issues with it is we're watching what we believe to be the best of the best. And then there's all these like usage restrictions and availabilities. And we got to turn to the clubs. And was this player going to be available tomorrow? Why or why not? The season starts in about a week. You know, when you watch the games, you can kind of turn that off. You can push that to the side and pretend like, you know, you're just watching the best of the best go at it toe to toe, but there's all these restrictions. I mean, pitch limits, usage availability. I get it. It happens in the regular season. It's not like you're going to pitch Mason Miller 3 consecutive days by and large in the regular season, but it just feels like there's all these WBC rules that get in the way of crowning maybe a true champion. But we'll see how it plays out for Team USA over the next 24 hours. All right, as we always do, let's get to this.
Presented by Sombrero Mexican Food. Check out their website at sombreromex.com.
Who's going to win the NCAA tournament?
All right, so it'll get underway officially tomorrow. You can hear it. Westwood One's coverage of the NCAA tournament right here on San Diego Sports 760, beginning tomorrow at 3:30. So I think for me, the 3 that are going to get the most buzz would be Duke, Michigan, Arizona. Who's the other number 1 seed? Other than Duke, Michigan, and Arizona. I should know that. Florida. But I think for me, Duke, Michigan, Arizona have a better argument than Florida right now. I say that Florida won the national championship last year and has played incredibly well, actually, in the second half of the year. I'm going to go with what I saw with my own 2 eyes, which was Michigan. To me, they were the most impressive team that I saw all year, and they played San Diego State and Vegas, and they looked like the Harlem Globetrotters. Like, they looked like the best team on earth the day the Aztecs saw them. And that's not the only team that they did what they did to. Like, Michigan all year long was winning games by 30 or 40 points all year long. Out of conference, in conference now. I know they've been tripped up a little bit late. Big Ten championship, Duke on a neutral floor in February. I just like their roster. I really do. So I'm going to go with, you know what? I'll go with a rematch of Michigan. Can this even happen? Can we get Michigan and Duke or not? Yeah, we can. I'll go with a rematch of Michigan and Duke, and I'll take Michigan in a 77-76 win. How about that? I'll give you the score. All right, next question.
Who's going to win the WBC title?
I think it's going to be the U.S. If you get Italy, it's a rematch, and you're trying to avenge what played out a few days ago, where they almost were on the outside looking in into the tournament, into the quarterfinal round. And then if it's Venezuela, I think that would be a very good game. But I'm taking the U.S. over Venezuela on home soil in that matchup, although it's a one-off, so you never know. But I would just say at this point, with the U.S. having advanced to the final, the other two teams trying to get there, U.S. gets the one extra day of rest. I'll take Team USA. And this wasn't easy to get there, again, with what played out with Italy and Mark DeRosa. But they've gotten their second opportunity, and now they better take advantage of it by winning the championship, which I think is tomorrow night. Pretty sure. Next question.
Which is a better NBA expansion market, Seattle or Vegas?
I think it's Seattle. You know, Seattle's had it. Seattle has passionate fans in general. Look at the Seahawks. You know, not necessarily the Mariners, but look at the Seahawks. Very successful NFL franchise, Super Bowl champions. And the Sonics were a very relevant franchise. They really were. Now they moved. Okay. Not the first time it'll happen, not the last, as we've talked about here locally in San Diego. I just see it more viable long term with like hometown support than Vegas. I think the issue with Vegas is like you're relying on tourism, which is fine. There's interest. If it's a weekend night, yeah, when the Knicks are in town, of course, everyone's going to be going crazy. But Tuesday night against the Grizzlies, do I think Vegas is a better market or Seattle? I think Seattle. And I don't even think it's close, truthfully. So I understand the argument for Las Vegas. I do see it as a sports mecca, epicenter, whatever right now. And I think there's a lot of advertising dollars. I think there's a lot of tourism, and there's probably support within the market itself. But I would take Seattle over Las Vegas.
You can't miss something you never had.
Right. Yeah.
And Vegas never had a basketball team. Seattle had one, and it was ripped away from them. And it wasn't, because it's, they only got 2,000 people in the arena every night. They were a popular team. Yep. They went to NBA finals when they were kids with, Sean Kemp and Gary Payton and everybody else, Detlef Schrempf and all those guys. We just dated ourselves there. But, they have a proven track record where Vegas is just Vegas. That's the only reason they want to put everything there is just because it's Vegas and because of, the sports gambling element. So, yeah, I'm with you. I think it's Seattle, not even close.
I mean, just real quick on Seattle before we move on. They have a title. It came in the 70s. They have 6 retired numbers. I mean, their franchise dates back forever. Like they were around for 50 years. It's basically like ripping the Chargers away from San Diego in terms of like their relevancy and like prominence in the market. They weren't around for 9 years. They were around for 50 years before they were ripped away. And it was a shame. And then they relocate to Oklahoma City in the mid 2000s. And it's time. It's probably past time. I think there were a lot of periods of time over the last 15 or 20 years. I thought Seattle would get a team back, and they renovated Key Arena. I think now the stars are aligning, and Seattle clearly is going to get an NBA franchise.
The NBA decided they've tortured them enough. They're like, hey, did you guys see OKC, aka used to be you guys, win the title last year?
Right. Yeah, that's exactly. I know. Can you imagine that? All right, next question.
Will Miami of Ohio win a single NCAA tournament game?
So this is one of the more polarizing topics in college basketball. Miami of Ohio, of all teams. Little school in the MAC, the Mid-American Conference, that most people have never watched on a basketball floor in any capacity. Well, they go undefeated until their conference tournament. They're upended in the quarterfinals by UMass. And now here's this 31-1 team. And Brent, they just snuck into this thing. They're in the play-in round. And on one hand, you say, well, they're undefeated. On another hand, you look at the metrics, which is what the sport is, and their metrics are awful. They played no one. At KenPom, you hear me reference it more than I reference my son. At KenPom, Miami of Ohio is 93rd. San Diego State's in the mid-40s and outside the field. So it's the part that's fascinating is on one hand, you have people that are just sports fans and say, how could you leave a 30-0 team out, essentially, right? Or whatever, 31. On the other hand, you got this new world where like, look at the math of it. They're not good. There's 50 other teams that have a better analytical argument for their team than Miami of Ohio. So I think either thing that happens, Brent, is going to be fascinating. If they get the doors blown off them in Ohio, by the way, in Dayton, an hour from their campus less, people will be like, what a mockery to let this team in. If they beat SMU, is now like an 8-point underdog, then what does it mean for mid-major teams moving forward that just roll through their conference? And will it then present opportunities for teams moving forward to not schedule, but try to rattle off 29, 30 wins and sneak their way into the field as an at-large team?
Teams learned in the college football playoff this year, scheduling matters now.
Right.
And I think that now teams are learning in college basketball, scheduling matters here too. If you play in, I'm going to say no disrespect, but I mean a little bit. When you play in a crap conference like the MAC, you can't just play conference schedules and then play a crap non-conference schedule on top of it
And think you're going to get
think
rewarded.
people are going to be like, oh, look at you, you're so good.
Yeah.
No, if you're going to stick with that bad conference schedule, then you have to schedule the non-conference schedule to end all non-conference schedules.
Gotcha. You want to play Michigan, Ohio
I want
State.
all top 25 teams, because it's going to have to do something to counterbalance the weakness of your conference. So then when this time rolls around, they're not going to go, oh, you guys went 31-1, but we're going to put you in the play-in tournament because you didn't play anybody. If they would have played 3 quad 1 games this season,
they played 0.
They would have been like an 8 seed, and there wouldn't be no discussion about them, potentially going undefeated and not even, making the tournament.
That's well said. I mean, I think the committee kind of chose the best of both worlds, where they said, we're not going to fully reward it by just putting them in the field without the plan, but we're not going to leave them out because we kind of understand maybe the PR nightmare of people saying, I went 30-0. They're in Division I. So I understand it. Here's my preference as a college basketball fan and watching it locally in San Diego. I like that San Diego State will play whomever. I like playing Michigan and Arizona. I just do. Now, did they lose to those teams? Yeah, but they tested themselves. Like, would you have preferred as an Aztec fan, Arkansas, Pine Bluff, and UMBC as opposed to Michigan and Arizona? I don't. I just don't. So I say play. Now they're in the same league as Gonzaga, but play the Gonzagas. Play the Arizonas, play UCLA, play USC. You get my point. And by the way, by playing those games, you don't have to be perfect. Certainly from San Diego State's perspective, they play a good enough brand and a quality enough schedule where you pick someone off. 2 years ago, they pick off Houston. They're in the tournament. But I think to Brent's point, and I agree with it, I think 2 years ago, if San Diego State doesn't beat Houston and Creighton and we turn it into Arkansas, Pine Bluff, and UMBC, bye-bye. You're nowhere near the field. So that's my preference. I understand scheduling is a little nuanced and a bit of an art, but there's no way that Miami of Ohio couldn't have gotten a quad 1 game in their schedule. You can't go on the road and play in Ann Arbor or at Ohio State. There's no way they couldn't have gotten a road game. It's not possible.
Hell, their schedule was so weak. Xavier would have been a massive improvement. There's plenty of Ohio. Yeah, there's plenty of
Dayton.
Ohio schools that they could have played.
Yeah, there's so many opportunities. And so, listen, they're in, and now it's going to be an amazing home court advantage, I would think. You're in Dayton, Ohio. They're playing SMU out of Texas. I wouldn't think SMU would have more than 500 fans in the building, maybe 1,000 fans. I would think of the 10,000 people in the building, whatever it is. It was a neat building when we were there last year. It really is. A little bit like Viejas, but older, but unique. I would think 90% of the fans will be rooting for Miami of Ohio. Will that make a difference? We'll find out. You can hear it, by the way, on Wednesday night right here on San Diego Sports 760 with Westwood One's exclusive coverage of the NCAA tournament. We will give away Neo tickets on the other side. We've got an update on Mason Miller's availability for the WBC final from Craig Stammen as well. This is San Diego Sports 760. We are live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, San Diego Sports 760. John Schaefer and Brent Sperry hanging out until 6 p.m. We're giving away these Neo tickets. We'll do it in the next 10 minutes. This is August 18th, North Island Credit Union Amphitheater. Pair of tickets to see Neo be listing. We'll tell you when to call for those tickets. We've been talking about, we're going to hear from Kevin Acey at 5:30 if you missed it earlier. And we've been talking about Mason Miller's availability because he's just been insanely dominant in this event. And obviously last September and October for the San Diego Padres. Well, according to Craig Stammen from earlier today, his availability for the final has not been determined. So that's not to say that he's not going to pitch on Tuesday, but it's not to say he will pitch. The exact quote from Craig Stammen was not ruled out, not decided. How we do with every pitcher, we evaluate them after their outing, see how they feel, and then calculate when their next outing is going to be. So he's in the same boat. I understand that. I do. But it's a little bit of the Scooble thing we've talked about. It's like, you haven't come this far just to come this far. You just beat the Dominican, and Mason Miller played a big role in doing that. And if you want to win this and you're in another closely played game where it's, a 1 or 2 or even 3-run game and you're in the 8th or 9th inning, he's not going to pitch because you're treating it like you treat every other pitcher in every other outing. On one hand, I get it. Mason Miller is way too important for your success in 2026 and beyond to go, quote unquote, risk it appearing in the WBC final. But then the other side of me says, well, what is the point of this tournament if the best aren't available in the biggest moments? And that's the juxtaposition that's juggled with events like the WBC being played in the middle of March when teams, aren't in season and nobody's really fully built up, whether it's a pitcher or even a hitter as they get ready for the season. I mean, all things being equal here, you want to see him on the mound, right? With a chance to close out the WBC final for Team USA. What a massive stage. Talking about millions of viewers, huge opportunity. You're not going to see a WBC again until 2029. They're not coming anytime soon. You're years away from seeing them. So again, for the United States in this opportunity, you just hope that you have like all hands on deck is what I would say. And I don't know if they will or won't. And by the way, they might lead in the game 8-0. Then don't use Mason Miller. I wouldn't use him either in an 8-0 game. But if you're in a 3-0 game, if you're in a 4-3 game or something like that, even trailing 4-3 and trying to keep, Italy or Venezuela at 4 and stay within a run, you want to have Mason Miller available. And it's not back-to-back days, Brent. He threw yesterday. He's not throwing today. So the question now becomes, will he be available tomorrow? Stay tuned.
I think it's kind of the thing that I thought was interesting about the weekend was the whole time before WBC started, it was all, Team Japan, Team, Dominican Republic. It's, it's going to be those two in the finals. It's, a no brainer because they're just so great and they're so stacked. And Japan loses and you wouldn't even know it. Because they barely even mentioned that they lost. You wouldn't even think that they were even in they went from being like the most talked about team in the entire tournament. And then as soon as they lose, it's like, oh, we weren't in that tournament.
Yeah.
And it's just like they just disappeared and now it's like they're gone. To a certain extent, same with the Dominican, but that's getting more play just because of, the bad strike call to end the game.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was kind of funny just how, the big talking point of the whole tournament was how stacked Team Japan was. And then they lose their one game. And then it was just like, just don't forget about that.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, here's the thing with Japan. They've won the thing multiple times. I think people recognize that in tournament baseball play, that's almost an oxymoron. Like the game's been played for 150 years. How often have one-off games decided anything? Yeah, 7th games. Even back in the day, go look at the World Series in the first 25 years. They played best of 9. Or 9th games have decided things. Now, I know we've had wild card formats over the years with like a one and done. I know there's been game 163s out there, but like I do think you have to take tournament baseball play with a grain of salt. Like the greatest team can lose a baseball game. 27 Yankees didn't go undefeated. So great teams lose. And I guess that's maybe that's what has made this event successful is that it is one off. Quarterfinals, winner go home. Semifinals, winner go home. So on and so forth. So a ton is on the line. But I do think we'd fool ourselves a little bit to say that because Japan lost to Venezuela, Venezuela is certainly the better team, right? If it was a best of 5, would Venezuela win 3 of the 5 games? And I don't know the answer to that. It's not to disrespect Venezuela. They probably have a very good team. I mean, Italy's played very well in this tournament to this point. They beat the U.S. But because Italy beat the U.S., do you really firmly believe that Italy's a better baseball nation than America? I don't.
Are you secretly rooting for Italy so we get a rematch? Kind of.
That's a good question.
So we have our actual A team instead of, DeRosa thinking that the game doesn't matter and put the B squad in.
Maybe. I mean, I think Venezuela is a more intriguing lineup and team when you look at their roster. So on one hand, I like that idea. On the other hand, I do like the avenging what played out a week ago storyline that would run through it. I never really considered Italy from a baseball perspective. Everyone talks about the Dominican and Japan and the U.S. and Venezuela. Venezuela is included in that conversation. So I think that has a little bit more star power to it if it's the U.S. against Venezuela. But I think the intrigue and storyline might be better, to your point, with the U.S. against Italy. So we'll know the opponent, by the way, later tonight because they're playing tonight, Italy and Venezuela. When will that game get underway, Brent? 5 p.m.? Or is it even 4:30?
I think 5.
Yeah, so that's tonight. Again, Italy and Venezuela in Miami. And yeah, I'm with you. I think it might be 5 p.m. It looks like they're preparing the field right now. So at some point in the next 30, 40 minutes, we'll see that. Let me just look that up. I'm kind of curious myself. WBC tonight is at 5 p.m. 5 p.m. Pacific. And again, it's on FS1. And then tomorrow, you have 5 p.m. Pacific, and again, that will be on Fox for the WBC championship game. All right. Call right now if you want Neo tickets. Caller 3, you are going to see Neo August 18th at the North Island Credit Union Amphitheater. 877-767-4760 if you want those 2 free tickets. Absolutely free. 2 free tickets to see Neo on August 18th at the North Island Credit Union Amphitheater. If you want those absolutely free tickets, call 877-767-4760. That's 877-767-4760. And again, for tickets and info on this concert, you can visit Ticketmaster.com. While the Aztecs are out of the NCAA tournament, we have an intriguing pod of teams coming to San Diego beginning Friday for the first round of the NCAA tournament. We'll discuss that on the other side. Plus, if you missed Kevin Acey, our Padres insider, you will hear from him coming up at 5:30. This is San Diego Sports 760. We are live on the iHeartRadio app.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. In NFL news, Kansas City sent a 2027 sixth-round pick to the Jets today for quarterback Justin Fields. The 49ers came to a one-year deal with wide receiver Christian Kirk, and cornerback Darius Slay announced his retirement from the league after 13 seasons. Slay had a career 28 interceptions and was a six-time Pro Bowler. Tonight, we have Lakers basketball on San Diego Sports 760 when they take on the Rockets. Pre-game coverage will start at 6:15 and the tip will be after 6:30. Staples has hundreds of great ways to boost your brand, like spectacular signs, brilliant brochures, eye-popping posters, mouth-watering menus, and more. Shop now through April 18th and save up to $125 on your custom prints. Save at Staples. That was easy.
All right, San Diego Sports 760 congratulates our $5,000 winners in iHeartRadio's Thank a Teacher, powered by Donors Choose. And now Donors Choose will match up to $150,000 in listener donations. Go to iHeartRadio.com/teacher and enter the code Thank a Teacher, and they will match any donation up to $200. Help us say thank you to the educators shaping our future now at iHeartRadio.com/teachers. That's iHeartRadio.com/teachers. So on one hand, again, Aztec fans disappointed with San Diego State not making the NCAA tournament for the first time since 2019. I saw so many Aztec fans in Las Vegas this past weekend. And you experienced a little bit of everything, the highs and the lows, wins over Colorado State and New Mexico, a thrilling win over New Mexico with 2 seconds left on the clock when BJ Davis hit the eventual game winner. And then, of course, the disappointment of Saturday falling to Utah State. So we've touched on that. We'll continue to do that throughout the course of the week. And Brian Dutcher joins us actually tomorrow right here on 760 tomorrow afternoon, I think at 3 p.m. Isn't that what I said earlier? Let me see. Yeah. Brian Dutcher tomorrow is at 2:30. Excuse me. So Dutch will join us tomorrow at 2:30. So on one hand, you have that, and we'll talk to Dutch and we'll get into the offseason and discuss what's next for San Diego State. On the other hand, you have an NCAA tournament pod here in San Diego with 4 games on Friday. And then, of course, the winners will play a pair of games on Sunday for the right to get to the Sweet 16. And Brent, over the years in San Diego, because they've had a number of different regionals over the years, and they're not regionals, like pods, you know what I mean? First and second round games in San Diego. There was one year where there were a couple of really good games, but the schools were like so random in terms of proximity to San Diego. You had like Marshall play West Virginia. You had like a random Clemson game. You had TCU. You didn't have the brands. This year's pod in San Diego is going to be one of the hottest tickets anywhere in the country, by the way, for opening round games. You have Kansas here. Kansas with their 1 million national championships. You have St. John's with Rick Pitino playing here. Okay. You've got one of the top overall seeds in the event, the Arizona Wildcats, playing here. You have a 3-time national champion in Villanova. They won 2 of them in the last 10, 12 years, Villanova. And then you've got the Mountain West intrigue with Utah State. I'm curious if you're an Aztec fan, are you rooting for or against the Aggies this week in San Diego? My guess would be most would be rooting against. That whole like thing in college where it's like SEC. I mean, really? There's so much vitriol between like Utah State and San Diego State fans. Or San Diegans going to be rooting for the Aggies this weekend in San Diego after Utah State essentially kept the Aztecs out of the NCAA tournament. I find that interesting. 70470 started with the word team. I think these matchups are fascinating. I think Utah State Villanova is a great game. I think just having Arizona in the building, their fan base is obviously incredible. We saw it firsthand in Phoenix this year when the Aztecs played there. And then St. John's with Rick Pitino and Kansas with Bill Self and Darren Peterson and all that drama and intrigue. You could be looking at a round of 32 game between Kansas and St. John's in San Diego. That's insane. And you could also be looking at something that I find, if it's Utah State, Arizona, that's interesting. You got the Mountain West angle, you got the Arizona angle. Even Villanova, Arizona would be a pretty good, compelling national matchup as well. So I think San Diegans and Viejas are in at San Diego State did well with the pairings coming up this week at Viejas.
Well, you know who the real winner in this is?
Who's that?
Darren Smith.
I know, honestly.
Because his Johnnies are going to actually be in town.
It's incredible because I actually saw him last night because I was on Sports Night with Darnay and NBC7. And so was Darren. And we talked about it afterwards for like 30 minutes. He was saying on one hand, he feels like it's disrespectful that they're a 5 seed. They won the Big East. On the other hand, he's like, I get to see the Johnnies in San Diego. Like, what are the odds of that? Like, I mean, the odds are 1 in 8 because there's 8 different regional sites or first and second round sites, but you wouldn't necessarily expect that with a team coming from New York to come to San Diego.
No, and it's just one of those things. It's just a coincidence. I would never expect the Badgers to just randomly get put in like the San Diego regional or anything like that. But if that ever happened, that would be awesome because then I wouldn't have to go anywhere.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about that. I mean, listen, again, the disappointment of not reaching the field, I understand if you're an Aztec fan. So I think there are some that might be like, man, do I even want to, like I'm just disappointed in it all. But it's the NCAA tournament. Come Thursday, Friday, enjoy the tournament, put on the TV, get to the games. It's the NCAA tournament. It's something that by and large American sports fans celebrate. It's hard to go every year. We talked about that. Did I get excited about the idea of beating Utah State and then maybe you're playing Wisconsin, Brent, to your point, in the tournament, and you're playing Nick Boyd or you're playing BYU in Portland and all that history over the years between the Aztecs and the Cougars? They'll be back, hopefully sooner rather than later. Unfortunately, they didn't make it this year. And I'm reading the text line all day and people are telling me this, that, and the other. Oftentimes we react way too positively when it's good and way too negatively when it's bad. I've noticed this specifically with San Diego State. Like I really have. Like I've seen everything under the sun about this team over the last, let's say, since the season started, since the Troy loss. I've read everything under the sun. At the end of the day, here's the factual statement. They were the 3rd team out of the tournament. Based on the expectations, they thought they were reaching the tournament and could win a game or more. Understandable. So I think they would tell you they probably didn't reach their expectations. They're judged on hanging banners and getting to NCAA tournaments. But they didn't go 10-23. They didn't finish in 9th place in the 11-team Mountain West. It's actually 12 teams right now. But like it wasn't, it's not an abject failure. It's not. They went 22-11. Okay, that's just a factual statement. And how about this, Brent? They are higher today in net rankings and KenPom than they were a year ago today when they made the NCAA tournament. 2 spots higher in both of the metrics. But as the cookie crumbled, as you put the field together with bid stealers and power conferences, this year they're on the outside looking at it. It comes down to what we're blue in the face here. Brent said it earlier. Aztecs beat Houston and Creighton last year. They didn't this year. So metrics have a role, but you also will need a marquee win or two along the way. Unfortunately, they didn't pick it up. But they are a near identical team metrically, if not better, than they were a year ago. So I just feel like that's good perspective on this team. Did people think they had a higher ceiling? Of course they did. I mean, we heard from Miles Bird and Reese Dixon Waters earlier. They absolutely felt as if they had a higher ceiling. And that's something to contemplate over the course of the offseason. But doesn't mean that everyone's going to transfer out. It doesn't mean they're not going to have NIL resources. And it doesn't mean they're not going to be contending in the new Pac-12 or fighting for an NCAA tournament spot in 2027. It's just sports sometimes. I mean, like you think until you don't necessarily know about your team. That happens sometimes in sports. There have been Padres teams that people think they know a lot about, and then the opposite plays out, and vice versa, I guess, as well. Did people think going into the 2022 NLDS, the Padres are going to beat the Dodgers? Absolutely not. They were terrible in the regular season against LA. LA had been dominating them that year. And then the Padres made quick work of them. Did people think the Padres would not contend in 2023 coming off an NLCS appearance against the Phillies and adding Juan Soto for a full year? Of course people thought they were going to contend. And they never really did. And they were well under 500 in September before they played well to make it look better than it was, but it wasn't good. And without that hot stretch in September, it would have looked even worse for the Padres. So that's just a couple of local examples where, you think but you have to watch it play out is my overall point. And like Miles Bird said post-game on Saturday, and we played it earlier, it's like, I think his exact word was like, it sucked that it took us 30 games to kind of play the way they were able to play on Thursday and Friday in Las Vegas. That's what he was saying. With that level of intensity, and putting it together like that. I thought they looked really good against Colorado State. I thought they looked very good against New Mexico. They gave them all they could handle, and then it was just tough to get back up, obviously, for Utah State, considering the high of New Mexico. It's not that they weren't up for it. They were playing to get to the NCAA tournament. It's just they were shorthanded, and credit Utah State, and they just couldn't close in the final 10 minutes. Aztecs led with 10 minutes to play, and it was a 1-point game with 7 minutes to play. I watched it back last night, which is never a great idea when you know the end result, but I watched it back. I mean, it was a 4-point game when MJ Collins hit that 3 in the corner and the foul was called, and it became a 5-point possession. That was with 5 minutes to play. It was a 4-point game, maybe just under 5 when that 5-point possession played out. So those are the breaks.
And that play was one of those plays that as soon as it happened and they had the delay and they came back, it was just like the air getting let out of a balloon.
Completely.
Any momentum, or it just felt like hope that the Aztecs had, it just washed away in just like a heartbeat. And it was just, you could tell after that just that was too big of a swing, that, you know, their only hope was that they're going to call, you know, what should have been the right call, that he fouled the 1-1, take the 3 off, and
could have stayed within 4, 5, 6.
And, you know, who knows? They still, you know, might have lost by 10.
Yep.
But, you know, at least we wouldn't have had just such a dramatic swing literally in like 10 seconds.
It was so dramatic. And to your point, the mental hurdle of playing 3 games in 45 hours and then having to now clear that. It's like, all right, hey, we just gave up a 5-point possession. We're all right. No, I mean, at that point, it was such a big swing. Yeah, the 5 points are massive in a 4-point game. And it just felt like they were on tired legs by that point, and there was no way to punch back after that.
Well, in the whole game, it was just kind of like, okay, just stay within 3 or 4. Just stay within 3 or 4.
They did for 35 minutes.
We stay within it, you know, we got a chance, we got it. And then, you know, they're up 4. And then, like I said, within, you know, just 10-second stretch is like all of a sudden we went from being down 5 to now we're down 8. And then, you know, that started their little run. And, you know, like I said, then it went from being a 4-point game to like an 11-point game
just
in
like
seconds. Yeah.
Completely agree. All right, we'll get back to what Craig Stammen had to say about Joe Musgrove in the 5 o'clock hour. If you missed our Padres insider, Kevin Acey, you'll have much more on that coming up at 5:30. We are here until 6 p.m. This is San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, we may have buried the lead. All right, John Schaefer, Brent Sperry, San Diego Sports 760. But we have just found out we have an amazing giveaway. And I think we got it today, and we have it tomorrow and Wednesday, Brent, as well, potentially. We'll have a few of these, but we'll do this between now and 6 p.m. Listen to this giveaway. This is kind of cool. And by kind of, eliminate the word kind of. This is cool. We have a 4-pack of tickets to the Fanatics Flag Football Classic that people have been referencing here. It's the Fanatics Flag Football Classic. It's coming to BMO Stadium in LA Saturday, March 21st at 1 p.m. So that's what? Saturday? Coming up this Saturday. It's the historic tournament that's bringing together, like you're going to see Tom Brady, Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels, Saquon Barkley, Odell Beckham, Rob Gronkowski, Joe Burrow, Logan Paul, ISO Speed, and more of the NFL's biggest superstars, elite global athletes, and the official USA flag football national team to finally crown a true world champion in flag football. The event brought to you by Fanatics Studios. Get your tickets now at Ticketmaster.com. That's a ridiculous giveaway, and we'll give that 4-pack of tickets away in the 5 o'clock hour.
They got to get it in there before the Olympics. They're going to crown the true world flag football champion before the Olympics.
Before the Olympics, we'll actually do that in 2028. But isn't this the event? Correct me if I'm wrong, Brent. Wasn't this going to be held in the Middle East, and then they moved it back because of the situation that's developing? I think it is. And I could be wrong. I could be wrong. But I don't know how they would put it together so quickly. I could be wrong on that, but that's ridiculous. And again, that's Saturday, and one of our listeners is going to get a 4-pack of tickets to that. So be listening for your chance to win those tickets. We touched on this earlier. Am I right, Brent?
Yeah, it was supposed to be in I can never
Saudi
say this
Arabia.
right. Yeah, the town where they have everything. Where was it Rida?
No, it's not. I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
because they always have they say the name of the place and it's season. It's Rida season or whatever with boxing, but
right.
Yeah, I can't say, but everyone knows what I'm talking about. Yeah, it was supposed to be held there, and then for obvious reasons, it's not going to be there. So it's going to be at BMO Stadium in LA.
Okay, so we'll give away those tickets again coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. I want to get back to what Craig Stammen had to say about Joe Musgrove. Do you have that, Brent? So again, Craig Stammen today on Joe Musgrove's availability moving forward. Again, he's only made one Cactus League appearance. Hasn't pitched now in over a week. We're just over a week away from opening day, and this is the latest from Craig Stammen.
So on Joe, does he start on the IL? What's the plan on that?
Yeah, he's most likely going to start on the IL this year. I mean, it's, we're getting to the point where he's taking enough time off that it'd be hard to ramp him up, to get him to be a viable starter that can throw 5 innings, 90 pitches. So, like I said, this was part of the plan.
Right.
And we knew he was going to have to take some time off. We knew we were going to have to, get him ready for the entire season and not just opening day.
So what's it do to your rotation?
Well, we've got a lot of depth. We got a lot of competition here in spring training. It's been fun to watch, and guys are competing for spots. We'll miss Joe at the beginning, but we're going to have Joe at some point during the season.
So when do you pick spots?
When do what?
When do you pick spots in your rotation?
Well, we'll probably pick spots probably the day before opening day.
You gonna wait that long? Okay.
Oh yeah, we'll wait all the way until we have to make a decision. I think it's probably smart to wait as long as you can to make decisions, because you never know what could happen in between that time period. So we're going to be smart, we're going to be patient, and we're going to try to make the best decision we can make with all the information.
All right. So, I mean, on one hand, you're not going to have Joe Musgrove. On the other, you didn't have him last year. And when I say you're not going to have Joe Musgrove, I don't mean for the year. I mean, it's typical for players coming back from Tommy John surgery to be dealing with ramifications of it, even as long out as he is. I mean, he's 18 months out now, because he had it in October of 2024. I mean, that is a long time ago. But his arm hasn't responded the way he wants it to, or they want it to, and you just have to be cautious. If you don't see him until April or May or June for that matter, there's nothing you can do. And you hope that you get him at some point making a contribution in 2026. Can it be overcome? I think so. I can't guarantee it. I think it can be overcome. Am I concerned about the rotation? Absolutely. But again, they didn't have him last year, Brent, and now they're going to start 2026 likely without him as well.
What worries me is, do you remember right before the playoffs last year, there was that rumor that started up, and it might have been all BS, that, Musgrove, he might be able to give it a go and pitch for us in the playoffs.
I do.
So we've gone from at that time.
Yeah, it was 6 months ago.
6 months ago, correct. That's you see what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
That he could possibly be ready to throw an inning or two in the playoffs to help out the team, and then 6 months later,
right
now we got to put him on the IR because even with more rest, he's still not ready. So he went from potentially, like I said, that might have been a BS rumor. He went from potentially, being ready enough that they thought about maybe using him or bringing him back for the postseason to 6 months later, and he's not even going to be ready to start the season. That kind of worries me that it's not progressing as quickly as they thought it would.
It is interesting. I mean, I do think a level of worry is completely reasonable because, I think everyone responds to this differently. What's very common today is pitchers make full recoveries from Tommy John. It often takes between 1 and 2 years to do that. Each pitcher is uniquely different. There are examples of players coming back off Tommy John, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I have this spot on. There are guys that have come back within 10 months. Maybe not to their full capability, but guys will come back 10 months later and pitch. Other guys will push the 18, 19, 20-month threshold. And that's where we are with Musgrove. And by the way, they come back and sometimes they're ineffective with their command, and the command will come back, but just like another 6 months later. So it's a very long process. It's like the Mike Clevenger tweet. Hey, good news, we've signed Mike Clevenger to a 2-year deal. Bad news, he's having Tommy John. Tommy John is a significant injury. Now, guys come back from it healthy. It often does not cost a player their career, but it costs them so much time. Like, I don't know what the equivalent is across all sports to Tommy John. You don't get it with position players. The Achilles in basketball is a shorter return, much shorter. Now, I think the impact of the Achilles is significant. And I don't think you ever get back to being the same player off an Achilles like you do off Tommy John. There's a lot of examples of guys getting back, even being better off Tommy John. I don't know if that's the case as well with Achilles, but I mean, to your point, Brent, I mean, 18 months is a lot of time. And it could be many more months before you see the old version. Now, I don't think we're going to be talking about this in September like we haven't seen him pitch. He's going to pitch for this team. I don't know about his effectiveness and when he'll be truly consistent or effective. That may not really come in 2026. I hate to say that. That may not come in 2026, and it's hard to have a lot of expectations for him. That might be more of a 2027 thing, believe it or not. So that's the concerning part because it was all about Joe Pavetta King. Everyone's like, Joe Pavetta King, in whatever order. They're going to lead us to the postseason. Trust me, second, and maybe they will. It's just, now it's concerning because the season's going to start and now there's no timetable on Joe Musgrove. And you don't have to have him March 26th, but you do need him, you would think, to reach your goals at some point in 2026. Now, I just don't know what the expectations are this year now for Joe Musgrove. So, again, that's the latest out of Padres spring training. We'll have more on Joe Musgrove with Kevin Acee, our Padres insider. You will hear that conversation coming up at 5:30. Also, just mentioned this in the 5 o'clock hour, great giveaway. 4-pack of tickets to the Fanatics Flag Football Classic this upcoming Saturday, BMO Stadium in LA. You're going to see players like Tom Brady and Jalen Hurts and Jaden Daniels and more. And we're giving those away in the 5 o'clock hour. So we're here until 6 p.m. A WBC semifinals about to get underway between Italy and Venezuela. More on the Padres and the Aztecs and Kevin Acee at 5:30. Plus Brent's back page coming up. Stay with us. Hour 4 on San Diego Sports 760 and live on the iHeartRadio app is next.
This report is sponsored by Staples. Today, the Chiefs sent a 2027 6th-round pick to the Jets for quarterback Justin Fields. The 49ers inked a one-year deal with wide receiver Christian Kirk, and cornerback Darius Slay announced his retirement from the league after 13 seasons. Slay was a 6-time Pro Bowler and had 28 career interceptions. Tonight, we've got Lakers basketball on San Diego Sports 760 when they take on the Rockets. Our pregame coverage will begin at 6:15, and the tip will be after 6:30. Want a great way to boost your brand? Custom labels at Staples will help packages pop, shipments stand out, and takeout boxes really take off. Shop now through April 18th and save 30% on all custom labels. Staples, that was easy.
All right, great giveaway coming up between now and 5:30. We've got this great giveaway. 4-pack of tickets to the Fanatics Flag Football Classic, BMO Stadium this Saturday in LA at 1 p.m. You're going to see stars like Tom Brady, Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels, Odell Beckham Jr., Rob Gronkowski, Joe Burrow, and more. That's a really cool giveaway. We'll have it for you at some point in the next 30 minutes. Brent, you have, what do you got?
There's more star power in the Fanatics flag football game than the Pro Bowl flag football game.
And like the actual NFL. That's a good point. WBC semifinal between Italy and Venezuela will get underway here tonight in Miami. Winner gets the U.S. tomorrow. See if the U.S. can capture this title for the second time ever in the WBC. That championship game, again, will be tomorrow night. Again, a reminder that San Diego Sports 760 is your exclusive home in San Diego of Westwood One's coverage of the NCAA tournament, which you can hear beginning tomorrow at 3:30. So we've got a unique week here because tomorrow and Wednesday, I'll be on the air from 2 to 3:30. And then Thursday and Friday, you're not going to hear from us because we've got the Westwood One first round action all day long. Some of the best days. Like I always loved when St. Patrick's Day coincided with the opening Thursday. This year, St. Patrick's Day coincides with the opening Tuesday of the tournament. It just depends on like how the calendar falls. But like it is truly one of the great days in American sports, the Thursday of the NCAA tournament, just the whole first round.
The first 2 days.
The first 2 days, because you're just so excited for it and you can truly binge it. And, you know, the games are in and out. Like they'll start a game at 12:15 Eastern and then there's another game at 12:40 and another game at 1:10. And the way it is now with the 4 different networks and True TV, you can watch them all. You can quad box the thing. It just doesn't end for, 12, 13 hours on Thursday and Friday.
Well, and two, you see everyone is excited about the first 2 days. It's kind of like opening day in baseball.
Yeah.
Opening day in baseball. It doesn't matter if you're a Reds fan or
Rockies.
a Marlins fan. No, come on. Not even Rocky fans are that delusional. But, almost everyone on opening day
is excited
for a couple hours. Will be like, we got a chance.
Yep.
Everyone's got a chance right now. And that's kind of the way this feels. The first 2 days feel, because everyone's watching their bracket and they can get excited about the first day's brackets and whether or not they're in it or not. Come the end of the first weekend and like the second weekend, people start to check out a little bit based on their brackets. But that first weekend, everyone's full of optimism that their bracket's going to be the one. One of my 12 brackets that I filled out will hit, and so I think that adds to why I think Thursday and Friday are the two best. In my opinion, I get more excited for the Thursday, Friday games than I do for the actual Final Four.
I have traditionally been like that as well. Now, the Final Four ratings will be bigger than the individual game ratings, but I do agree with that. Here's my question for you. About the NCAA tournament that kicks off Tuesday, but more so Thursday. Will any of this lose its luster if it becomes a chalky tournament? Now, it was last year. That's 1 year. This tournament is known for Bryce Drew and Valpo, right? It's known for St. Peter's. It's also known for Kentucky and Kansas and Duke and Carolina, of course, and some of these championship runs. But listen to this, Brent, for example. All right, this is the first time ever all the 5 seeds have been 8-point favorites or more ever since the field expanded. The average point spread in the 4-13 games is 14.5 points. The average point spread in the 3 versus 14 games is 19.5 points. Both of those are the largest ever. And all 4 2 seeds are at least a 20-point favorite for the first time since 1986. What we're saying is the money has really pulled the top up, and it's harder for the middle to compete. And last year was a chalky tournament, and these lines are these lines. But it's still the NCAA tournament. So, like, are we going to once again see the 1 through 7s all advance? Or are we going to see a little bit of, Cinderella that has made this tournament so popular over the last 40 years?
Chalk is good for the Final Four.
Correct.
If you get to the Final Four and we have, the arguably 4 best teams in all of basketball
People like that
get to play, that's a good example of chalk. But, people just don't like chalk in the earlier rounds because it's boring.
That's right.
Like I said, they'll tolerate it in the semifinals and the finals because it's the semifinals and the finals, but they don't want to sit through 3 weeks of no upsets and everything going 1, 4, 2, predicted. 3. Yeah. They want that upset. We need that 12-5 upset to happen every year because otherwise, if everything goes by the book, there's no point in watching it because it's like the way college basketball used to be for the women when it was like UConn, Stanford, and the other 132 women's programs, to where there's no drama in any of it because everyone knew that the finals were going to end up being those two, and one of those 2 teams are going to win, and nobody else had a chance. So, yeah,
I mean, I agree with you. I think what you're saying is correct. And now I do believe that the tournament will still look like the tournament moving forward, and it won't just always be 4s beating 13s and 5s beating 12s and 6 beating 11s. Like, I don't think that's what we're in store for over the next decade. I don't have, it's anecdotal for me to say that, but I mean, you can't deny the point spreads. The point spreads reflect the analytics, which say these really good teams are a lot better than these teams that aren't, top 10 or 20 teams in the country.
I think the problem is going to stem down the future when they expand it, because right now, everyone will get excited with a 12-5 upset if it's, I don't know what the 12-5s are. I'm just talking if it's McNeese State,
St. John's, Northern Iowa.
Okay, there's one. If Northern Iowa upsets St. John's, it's going to be a big deal.
Yeah.
But once they expand the tournament, the 12-5 upset is going to be, we talked about it with Sammy during the break. It's going to be Texas, NC State.
Right.
To where no one really cares about a 12-5 upset between,
major
2 big
major
programs.
Yeah.
If we don't have the little brother program, so to speak, in there to serve as the underdog, no one's really going to care if, the 12-5 matchup was, Texas Tech beating Texas because it's 2 big, name programs. Without the smaller underdog element of it, it's boring.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it's going to be in the future. Because in, a perfect world, we expand the tournament and, it gives more opportunities for more mid-majors and smaller schools that wouldn't have the opportunity to get in.
But is that really?
But in reality, it's just going to mean more blue bloods that didn't get in, but now they're going to get in, and it's just going to be more of the big names, not the underdogs.
Yeah, you're probably spot on. I mean, listen, if this tournament expands, by the way, the expectation is it will. And I know that's against the general well wishes of like college basketball fans, I think, or at least certainly social media. People are like, it's the weakest bubble already. Why would you let in 17 and 16 Auburn, right? I do believe ultimately the tournament is expanding from 68 to 72 or 68 to 76. Now, what's interesting about that is if the tournament was expanded this year, San Diego State would be in, right? I mean, the Aztecs are among those teams that were on the cut line. Their last time they missed the NCAA tournament, or you go back to like 2015 when they were on the cut line and missed out. They also would have been in with an expanded field. So on one hand, I do like more opportunities for programs like, again, outside the Power 4 or Power 5 structure. There's a lot of good basketball that's being played. Right. Recently, the Mountain West, that's going to change now with this new Pac-12, obviously. But you have other teams that deserve opportunities beyond, to Brent's point, the Oklahomas and the Texases and the Texas A&Ms. But yeah, I don't really know what to make of it. Again, last year, I think the general belief was NIL impacted the madness of March. That was the general belief, that the money spent by the top of college basketball kept the variance out of it. It kept the upsets away, because even a really good MAC champion, I'm making it up, Akron, can't compete on the same floor as, again, I'm making it up, they're not playing this, St. John's, because St. John's is spending $12 million and Akron is spending $400,000 on the roster. Therefore, it's no longer possible like it was a few years ago. I can't go that far and say that based on 1 year. I mean, last year, Colorado State also came within some ridiculous play by Maryland's Derek Queen of reaching the Sweet 16. He had a shot at the buzzer. It looked like he traveled. Now, that would have been basically the only Cinderella in the Sweet 16. To Brent's point, I have no issue with 4 of the top 6 or 7 or 8 teams playing in the Final Four, but I would like to see a Sweet 16 with someone in a double-digit seed. I would like to see Northern Iowa, now not at the expense of Darren St. John's, for example, if he's going this week, but you understand the point. If Northern Iowa can make its way to a Sweet 16, that's an incredible story for 4 or 5 days. But if everyone in the Sweet 16 is St. John's and Kansas and Connecticut, yeah, those are huge brands. People will be watching. Make no mistake. But I just like the madness. It's called March Madness. It's not called March Chalkness. So you have to have at least some. And I do think that narrative is going to be really hit home if we don't have upsets this year. Last year, I could excuse it. Some people could not. If it happens back-to-back years and you do have that chalkiness, it's going to be interesting how people view the tournament, even in like 2027, heading into it. I really think that.
Well, especially if you brought up the point spreads, if the games aren't close. It's one thing if,
19-point games. Yeah.
Carolina was like a 6 seed. If Carolina, wins and they don't get upset, but they win because they stave off like a 3-pointer at the buzzer or something like that. Yeah. That's fine, because that's exciting.
Great game.
It's entertaining television, it's drama and all that. But if, every, 5 seed is going to beat the 12 seed by 20 points, then it's just like, what's the point? It's like you want us to sit here and watch 2 weeks through almost 3 weeks of blowouts to finally get to when the top teams are going to play each other.
That's a great point. It's less about the result and more about the quality of the games. Yeah, I'm with you. If a 2 beats a 15, but it's a thrilling game and whatever, that would be incredible. Now, again, you're not expecting the 2-15 to be the greatest game of the day or the 1-16, but every once in a while, it's nice for one of those games to like give you some intrigue inside the final 8 minutes.
In a way, they would be in danger of becoming the NBA playoffs.
Or where the higher seeds win.
To where the higher seeds win so often that people just don't pay any attention to the earlier games because everything goes as planned. And, call me when the finals start or when the conference finals start at least, and then I'll pay attention then. If everything is just going to go by the book as, predicted for 2.5, 3 weeks, I think we might get a bunch of people that are just like, yeah, I'm out. Call me when the Final Four starts.
Yeah, I think it's a possibility. Listen, I have hopes for a great tournament. Like, we're all going to get to Thursday and be like, you just don't know. You wake up, none of us have ever watched, by and large, who has watched Northern Iowa this year? Who's watched Cal Baptist, who plays Kansas here? I actually saw the WAC championship game. It was insane how they won. But you know what I mean? Nobody's seen them. And then all of a sudden they're on your TV, you're like, man, this guard is good. Like, man, this team plays an interesting defense or whatever. Like, man, they're in it. And then all of a sudden, Kansas gets tight. The building starts pulling for the underdog. Everyone always forgets about that, what that's worth.
Well, yeah. I remember the one year the Badgers, I was running the board and I looked over at the guy I was working at and we're like, who the hell is this Steph Curry kid? And like, how are we getting beat by this guy? He weighs like 75 pounds and all we knew was that his dad was, Del Curry. Right. And it's just exactly like, how are we getting beat by this guy?
This one-off like kid. Oh, by the way, he's become one of the greatest players to ever play the sport. All right. We've got that great giveaway for you on the other side. We've got this 4-pack of tickets to the Fanatics Flag Football Classic. This, Classic is coming to BMO Stadium in LA this Saturday with players like Tom Brady and Jalen Hurts and Jaden Daniels and more. We're giving away those tickets next. And then you're going to hear from Kevin Acee coming up at 5:30, our Padres Insider. We're here until 6 right here on San Diego Sports 760. All right, 70470. Start it with team Kevin Acee in 10 minutes. If you missed our conversation from earlier on Joe Musgrove and the WBC. By the way, the other semifinal is underway. Former Padre Jacob Marcy actually playing for Italy. And that game is scoreless through an inning. Italy and Venezuela. Winner gets Team USA tomorrow, again in Miami, Florida. We are giving away in 6 minutes as good of a giveaway as, this is a good giveaway. 4-pack of tickets to the Fanatics Flag Football Classic this Saturday, BMO Stadium in LA, with players like Tom Brady and Jalen Hurts and Jaden Daniels and Saquon Barkley. A ridiculous list. So we're going to give away that 4-pack of tickets coming up in about 6 minutes. So be listening for that. Off our text line, Brent, a couple of people weighing in just on the tournament right now. Like 760 says, until a team that's ranked higher than an 11 seed wins the whole thing, expanding the tournament is lame, in my opinion. Making the point that, adding more in the middle or towards the back, well, they've never won it. So why are you adding them? And then 858 making this point that the 2025 first four had 7.4 million viewers. I think he means for all the games. It's on True TV, by the way. He says people watch and they will still watch when the field is inevitably expanded, which is, I think, the point. You're only expanding it to create more money and get more viewers. They certainly are not going to try to expand it to lose money on the operation.
That's kind of like the NFL quandary, though, of, the NFL could put the two worst teams in the league on Thursday Night Football, and they're going to get 18 million people to watch it. So the ratings doesn't automatically equate to quality. It just means that, March Madness to a certain degree is too big to fail, just like the NFL is, to where, even if this tournament, cross fingers it doesn't, but if this tournament is the most chalk tournament in the history of tournaments, every higher seed wins in blowout fashion. Guess what? They're still going to get huge ratings for every single game because it's March Madness. Just like it doesn't matter what NFL game it is, they're going to get huge ratings for it.
Is there any kill the golden goose element to it? Is there anything though that could, again, expansion of let's say you went from 68 to 96, which by the way, mathematically works, right? From 64 to 96 is half larger. They're not going to 96. It's not being argued right now. But even 72 or 76 or the chalkiness, is there anything they could do? This makes the NCAA. All their revenue is created on it. The schools benefit from it. The viewership is obviously unbelievable. Is there anything that could happen that could cut away at that? Again, with the NFL, they're too big to fail. Can we say the same about March Madness? Maybe, probably.
If it gets too close to the college football playoff, we talk about it all the time about how they're polar opposites, to where the college football playoff would rather have a 7-loss SEC school
than
in
a 13-1 Boise team.
Exactly. Yeah. And if March Madness gets to the point where they start shunning away the smaller schools because they're all about getting in the bigger schools and just getting them in, and they kind of lose the point of expanding it to help out the smaller guys, and they use it to just help out teams that don't necessarily need it. I think that could turn people the wrong way.
If you kill Cinderella.
Yeah, well, because it's kind of an extension of the people that think that NIL is going to kill it eventually, because the smaller schools just won't be able to compete with, the Dukes and the Carolinas of the world, to where I think to a certain extent, I think that could happen. I think that whether it's the government or somebody will step in, I think, before it happens and be like, okay, we've had our fun, but we got to put some regulations on this. We can't just let NIL just be a Wild West free for all.
Right.
We have to put some sort of cap on here so that, Duke doesn't have an NIL fund of, $87 million. And then, Utah State has one of, $5 million, because it's not going to work out in the long run.
Yeah. Those are all interesting points. I agree. It's just that's the one thing you can't do is, listen, what's been discussed over the last 2 or 3 years, it's even been the idea of well, do all these leagues really need automatic qualifiers? Yeah, they do. The only way Lehigh can beat Duke is by being in the tournament. So if you get rid of Lehigh to add the 16th place team and the 18th team Big Ten, to your point, no, who cares if Penn State beats Michigan? I mean, it's not overly compelling, but everyone cares if it's Central Connecticut State or Lehigh. I think.
I think another factor would be if the game trends too far, like what the NBA did, into 3-pointers to where everyone can
all
play
threes or dunks.
To where it's all threes or dunks. There's no mid-range shooting or anything else. I think that could hurt it too if every game is kind of like, who did we play in the tournament where they had, remember at one point they were like 4 for 22 for 2-point field goals, but then they're like 8 for 18.
That was Colorado State on Thursday.
If we get a whole bunch of teams that are like that, to where every game it's like, oh, they went 2 for 12 on 2-point field goals, and then they went 12 for 57 on threes, I think that some fans will sour on that, like they did with the NBA when they did it.
Yeah, it's interesting. All right, let's hear from Kevin A. So we'll get back to the Padres. The latest on Joe Musgrove is coming up. Also, the WBC, the fallout from the Dominican team. Again, they fall short against the U.S., of course, led by Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis Jr. But caller 7, you've got a free 4-pack of tickets to the Fanatics Flag Football Classic this Saturday in L.A. 877-767-4760. Love this giveaway. 877-767-4760. Caller 7, you have a free 4-pack of tickets to the Fanatics Flag Football Classic in LA at BMO Stadium Saturday at 1 p.m. Historic tournament. It's bringing together Tom Brady and Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels, Saquon Barkley, Odell Beckham, Rob Gronkowski, Joe Burrow, Logan Paul, and more of the NFL's biggest superstars, elite global athletes, and the official USA Flag Football national team to finally crown a true world champion in flag football. The event brought to you by Fanatics Studios. Tickets at Ticketmaster.com. Caller 7, you are going. 877-767-4760. Call right now for that free 4-pack of tickets. Kevin Acee on the other side on San Diego Sports 760.
This report is sponsored by Anderson Plumbing, Heating, and Air. In NFL news, the Chiefs sent a 2027 sixth round pick to the Jets today for quarterback Justin Fields. The 49ers inked a one-year deal with wide receiver Christian Kirk, and cornerback Darius Slay announced his retirement from the NFL after 13 seasons. Slay was a six-time Pro Bowler and a one-time All-Pro in 2017, and he also had 28 career interceptions. Tonight, we've got Lakers basketball on San Diego Sports 760 when they take on the Rockets. Pre-game coverage begins at 6:15, and the tip will be at 6:30. Choosing the right home service company isn't just about fixing what's broken. It's about trusting who's in your home. That's why homeowners count on Anderson for friendly professional service that keeps everything running right. Visit AndersonPHA.com.
All right, back with you on San Diego Sports 760. Brent's back page is ahead. WBC second semifinal underway. No score in the second between Venezuela and Italy, with the Italian team batting. Again, the winner gets the U.S. tomorrow in Miami. And that is where Kevin Acee is, our Padres insider. And if you missed it earlier, we started the conversation with the atmosphere in Miami for the WBC.
The atmosphere was a lot of fun, and I thought the game was fantastic. It certainly wasn't perfectly played. The Dominican had a lot of chances to win, but I mean, the pitching, the defense. I mean, we talk about the offense of those two teams, and the offense of the Dominican. A lot of Gold Glovers out there, especially there are a lot of Gold Glovers, the United States, and that's a good team. Yeah, it was. I tell you what, there's not any comparison that any of us who have seen any type of game, including World Series games. I'm not saying that it's more important. I'm not saying the World Series atmosphere isn't great, because it is. But in terms of just playing for the name on the front of your chest that is your country, and then the fans and the connection between the fans and the players, and especially a place like the Dominican, and you can feel it. It's really exciting.
Is it? I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. Just like the Machado Tatis angle, maybe more Machado than Tatis. Is it fair to be critical of any one player in any one game? I mean, it's such a unique event. This isn't best of even 3 or 5 or 7. It's like, well, this player went 1 for 4. I mean, we're talking about one baseball game against elite pitching. So, like, do you feel like Machado having an opportunity to come through and failing to do so reinforces a big game narrative that he's not a clutch player, or is that completely unfair considering the circumstance?
I think it's both. I mean, you know how I try to see like all the shades of gray, and I absolutely agree with you. But it's like, yeah, like it does reinforce the narrative, but like that's unfair. I mean, this is. Right. I mean, look, if you give the Dominican, or look, the United States lost to Italy, right? Do you think in a best of 3, a best of 5, a best of 7, they were going to lose to Italy? Or if they're in the same division as Italy, they're going to lose or finish behind Italy? Right. No chance in the world, and that's why baseball has as many games as it has, as in, playoff series and a 162-game season. And that should also be how a player is evaluated. But we are now talking about it being another game on top of Manny's career, right? Like, so I don't know that it's entirely unfair. Plus, you sign up for it. I mean, so yeah, and absolutely, it's fair to put it in context, and I think it does help provide some context. But your point, and you know that it's my point, you've known me long enough, that these small sample sizes and losing our minds over that, is not right.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think everything, it's like, certain things are black and white, but a lot of things in sports are gray. And there's some nuance to what's playing out in something like the WBC. Kevin Acee is with us right now in San Diego Sports 760. You've been reporting on Joe Musgrove likely starting the year on the IL for multiple days, but now it's become closer to officially official from Craig Stammen. What's the overall impact here to start the year? Again, we've known that this is a possibility for more than just a few hours at this point. What will it ultimately mean for the Padres as they break camp and start the season?
Oh, theoretically, right, it opens up another rotation spot, and that's something that they've been aware of for 7 days or so, 7 to 10 days. That okay, well, it looks like that's what we're going to have to do. Well, does it open up another rotation spot, or do they go with 4 starters and rely on their bullpen? And that's easier done than you would think, given that they have a day off in day 4 of the season, day 8 of the season. And they have a really strong bullpen. They have some guys who pitched really well for multiple innings. Kyle Hart, Logan Gillespie till recently, Jackson Wolf. You could have Herman Marquez added to your bullpen, or have him be a starter on a really short leash. But, you know, those days off and their strong bullpen give them some options to be creative. I mean, I've mapped it out where they can be creative for the season's first month, but everything would have to go right. As in, you know, one of their starters, their established guys, can't go 3 innings, or they certainly can't have 2 short starts in a row. And then, you know, they could actually make it through like the season's first month with 4 starters. They're not going to do that. That's not how it goes. And that does set them up for catastrophic failure in terms of overworking your bullpen, which they're just not going to do. But they do have creativity, at least for, say, the first 10 games or so.
Is it one of those things where, and I know I probably talked to you about it just a few days ago, but is it one of those things where you just kind of don't know with Musgrove in terms of what comes next? Yeah. As in nobody's going to say, oh my gosh, his season's lost. That's not the point. My issue always with guys coming off Tommy John is that it's hard to trust their level of consistency. And it just feels like that's where we're heading in 2026, maybe with Joe Musgrove, or maybe it's premature to say that.
Right. No, this reinforces that, right? Like it was always well, you know what? At some point, you know, first off, the performance might not be great, or there might be some real peaks and valleys. But, oh, boy, now it's like the start of the season where he's not feeling right. And so now it's kind of like, the way I've phrased it is like, it's not a big deal, but it certainly is not ideal. Like, this is like the fact that it's at the beginning of the season, just like I said, does reinforce that, oh, boy, we don't know what we're going to get from Joe Musgrove.
Yeah, again, not overly encouraging, but again, it's hard to really know its true impact until we get going and see what he can do or provide this year. I saw that you had quote tweeted something from your colleague Jen Van Grove, right? And I know you and I have talked about this a lot. The idea that the Padres obviously are on the verge of being sold, and you know, to calm nerves, nobody wants to ever envision a world where the San Diego Padres are leaving San Diego. We still feel the same way, right? That San Diego is a big piece of the purchase that's coming in the future, that it's important to be in San Diego based on all the things we've talked about: Petco Park, fan support, market. I mean, there's no reason for concern, right?
There is zero reason for concern. Now, I want to say this, like 10 years from now, like they have let the thing go to crap, and we're back to a situation where, you know, 15,000 people are showing up to watch them play the White Sox on a Tuesday or something. But like, I'm just, you know what I mean? I'm telling you, in telling you that, like this apocalyptic world, I'm reinforcing like that's so far from what they are now and what you would think they would be allowed to be again with a new owner with even more money, you know, coming in. Like, no, absolutely. I mean, it's just impossible. You know, here, we want to know how far-fetched it is. Jen reported that they could opt out in 31, I believe, in 2031. The Padres didn't even know that. They thought it was 33. But based on what I guess the city has paid back, I believe it is, that like now that, because that's what it's tied to, right? It was 2033, but it's based on, you know, the bonds being paid off and all that. It's 2031 now. The Padres just, and I think I had reported before like that, like the Padres haven't even looked at their lease. Like it's not a thing that has been a part of the new owner's due diligence in terms of, hey, in terms of that portion of it, like, hey, what's our possibility to leave, right? But then in her reporting, she finds out this, and I believe that's where the Padres found out, or maybe when she was asking about it as it came up. But like the point being, they just aren't concerned about this, and the new owners aren't. There's so many reasons that it's preposterous, but the reason that I'm going on and on about it is because I do get it. I mean, look what happened with the Chargers, and look, I was wrong about the Chargers. I was a columnist back then. There was virtually no one in the NFL thought they were moving, and then Dean Spanos up and moved. Right. So, like, by virtue of that, I was wrong. Even though, and I'm not going to give away like sources, but like the highest levels of the NFL, oh no, this isn't going to happen. Eventually, we're going to figure it out. Nope, Dean Spanos left. So boom, oh my gosh, it could happen here again. No, it's like comparing apples and bricks.
Yeah, I think it's well said. It's not something. I don't think Padres fans should be losing sleep over that. You might want to lose sleep over like Joe Musgrove right now, but nobody can predict the future. Like you said, nobody can look 10 plus years down the road. You're reporting on Mason. Mason Miller's been incredible, as we've seen in a Padres uniform and obviously play out now for Team USA. Is he going to be available for this final game? And I mean, this is just ridiculous, right? The stat that hitters are 0 for 50 with 39 strikeouts against Mason Miller since September 8th. I mean, this guy's on like another planet right now.
Yeah, he is. And to be who he is, I mean, pitching's ahead of hitting right now, right?
Yep.
Like, all things considered, unless you're some single A kid pitching for Israel against Fernando Tatis Jr. But like, this is Mason Miller. Like, he's just light years ahead. The Padres game planned all this out with themselves, with Mason Miller, with the U.S. before, right? Like, you look at the schedule and you go, hey, that's a possibility that guy could pitch 3 times in 5 days. Are we going to be okay with that? Yeah, you know what? We're okay with that, but we need Mason Miller to be honest about it, like at the time. So I do think that to a certain extent, while it looks like he's going to, from everybody that I've talked to, be available to pitch tomorrow in the championship game, that, Mason Miller could wake up tomorrow and go, hey, I don't know, this is a little different or something like that. Or he could go warm up and be like, no, this is a little different. Now, what are the chances of that happening? This guy all geeked up to pitch in a championship game for the United States. But the Padres have been completely cool with that because they have already looked ahead and said, yeah, look, he started throwing 3 weeks early, and he's all good. But hey, like every reliever, you're gonna hold out a little bit that says, how do they feel at game time?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's going to be, I mean, again, he's been such an important piece, and we'll see if he closes the door potentially on a Team USA title in the 2026 WBC. Kevin, appreciate you taking time. Safe travels this week. And it's crazy that we're a week out, right? I mean, a week out from opening day or just over. It's kind of insane.
Yeah, it really is. But that's how it does. Spring training sneaks up on you, and then the season doesn't if you are at spring training for 6 weeks.
Good
then
point.
All of a sudden, it's kind of like, oh my gosh, yeah, wow. And I get super excited. I get to do get my stat books all ready. I'm going to be fired up when I get back on Wednesday.
All right. Safe travels again, and we'll catch up later in the week. And thanks for hopping on. All right, again, Kevin Acee, our Padres insider earlier. We'll step aside. Brent's back page on your way next on San Diego Sports 760. All right, San Diego Sports 760. John Schaefer, Brent Sperry. We remind you Thursday, March 26th, it's our 2026 iHeartRadio Music Awards coming back live on Fox. Watch as we honor the biggest stars from all genres of music that you love listening to all year long in the iHeart app, hosted by Ludacris, featuring Innovator Award recipient Miley Cyrus and Breakout Award recipient Alex Warren, with performances from Lainey Wilson, TLC, and Vogue, Salt and Peppa, and more to be announced. Think you're the biggest fan of one of the nominees? We want to see it. Record a video telling the world why you love your favorite nominee and tag iHeartRadio on TikTok. We'll choose the best video and play it during the show. Watch live on Fox Thursday, March 26th at 8 and listen on the free iHeartRadio app. All right, it's that time. Let's get right to it.
All right, we only got 2 today.
All right.
John, do you like Five Guys? Probably not, because you don't eat hamburgers.
Not really.
Okay.
It's not that I don't like it. It's just I don't eat hamburgers.
Okay. Well, I think I'm in the majority here. I like Five Guys a lot, but I hate their prices a lot.
Oh, interesting.
Well, it's super expensive.
Yeah.
You could go to like an actual sit down, like quote restaurant and get a cheaper burger than you can get at Five Guys. Because if you get like a big burger, and they're big and everything, but they're super expensive. But Five Guys was trying to do a BOGO promotion about a week ago or so, but they were not prepared for the overwhelming demand that they got from it in February. So they're doing it over.
Oh, wow.
They are relaunching it. It's already started. It started on the 9th, and it's going from March 9th through the I pulled the gym one. This one expired already because it
already
on the
happened.
12th. Yep, it ended on the 12th.
March 9th through 12th.
Yeah.
Well, I want to hear about it anyway.
Okay. Well, they were redoing it because they weren't ready and they didn't have enough BOGO offers, pretty much.
So they did the same promotion, but this time they were more prepared.
They're more prepared, and the company even awarded $1.5 million in bonuses to employees. Because they handled the initial promotion so well under the pressure of, just them not being ready to do it. So, I thought that was today. Still, I forgot my days of the week are all screwed up.
That's fine.
So
it was last week.
So it just ended. So I thought we still had 2 days on it.
Okay.
So, but we don't. So no more BOGO. Five Guys is just going to be expensive. But,
okay.
The other story we have, Ruth's Chris,
of course,
the super fancy steakhouse. Well, Ruth's Chris is kind of pissing off some people because they are implementing a dress code policy, and it's creating kind of a debate online. Their new dining room policy. Now, this is just the policy for their dining room because, you can eat at the bar or in the lounge, and then they have the dining room. So they are reminding that you need to follow a business casual dress code for the dining room. If you have a hat, they said it should be removed upon entering the building, and guests in ball caps may be asked to dine in the bar or the lounge instead of the dining area.
Wow. Okay.
Reaction's been split online. Some people are calling the policy outdated, and others are saying it's a fair way to protect the restaurant's atmosphere. To me, it just makes sense. It's not like you're, and I loved Ponderosa when they were around. It's not like you're going to Ponderosa. You're not going to some $15, steak buffet. You're going to Ruth's Chris where, like the cheapest cut of steak you can probably get is going to be $50. So if you're going to go to that fancy of a restaurant, I don't think it's too much to say, leave the Crocs at home and don't wear a hat.
I would agree. And I mean, that's just how, here's the thing. You work in certain workplaces, depending on where you work, there's going to be an attire rule. I mean, it's kind of par for the course. If you're going to go to a nice restaurant, you might have to get dressed up.
Well, this is the second, time people are throwing a fit about dress codes, because about maybe a month ago or so on the back page. I did a story. I don't remember what the cruise line was, but one of the cruise lines, on those cruises, they're basically floating cities and they have, multiple restaurants. Some of the fancier restaurants on the cruise ship said they implemented a dress code and said, we don't want shorts and flip flops in here. And people on the cruise line threw a fit because they wanted to go into the fancy restaurant and just wear pajama bottoms and shorts and sandals, and they thought they should be cool with it. And the cruise line is like, well, then you take your butt to one of the other 20 restaurants we have in here. This one we don't allow it.
There's rules in like companies and businesses and restaurants can set their own policies. Like that's kind of their right. It's not a ridiculous policy. They're not saying, hey, to go to Ruth's Chris you got to wear a tux.
Well, yeah, and it's not like McDonald's is coming out and implementing a dress code. We're talking about quote fancy restaurants and stuff like that. So I don't have a problem with places like that implementing a dress code.
If you don't want to go there because of the policy, don't go. You're not forced to go to Ruth Chris, so you can go elsewhere. Yeah, I don't think that's. I'm honestly, the people that are complaining about that are those even Ruth Chris customers. They're not. You know what I mean? It's like, there's this big firestorm on certain topics on social media, and it's from people that aren't even like the consumers. Would be my guess. That would be my guess. So, all right, good stuff. A backdated story and then a back page story on.
It's bound to happen sooner or later. Yeah, I've been pretty good at catching them before I actually go on air with it. So this is the first one.
Right. Unlike my former
that other guy
co-host, you actually do typically read before you read it on air. Let's do this again tomorrow when the NCAA tournament kicks off, and you can hear Westwood One's exclusive coverage on it beginning tomorrow at 3:30. But we'll be on the air from 2 to 3:30 and joined live by Brian Dutcher tomorrow afternoon to talk more about the Aztecs men's basketball season and team. Brian Dutcher joining us tomorrow live at 2:30 p.m. If you missed anything today, you can go to sportssd.com or the iHeartRadio app or iTunes or TuneIn Radio or Spotify. And for Sammy Long, who was here earlier, and Brent, I'm John. Tournament kicks off tomorrow. Keep it here. This is San Diego Sports 760.